Chapter 2500. Of course, the feeling was not obvious, and was almost undetectable. Su Zimo could not be sure either. This change did not seem to be caused by Qinglian's real body. If she encountered energy that she could absorb, such as some spiritual herbs, Qinglian's real body would have a more obvious reaction. But on the battlefield in Shura, Qinglian's real body was extremely quiet. This murderous aura could seal the six-tusked divine elephant and the golden-winged great rock, but it could not seal the 9 flashes of the true dragon, the one heavenly primordial water, and the Nanming primordial fire. Of course, the reason was that these 3 mystic arts were inherited from the prison-suppressing cauldron. But there was another explanation, and that was that these 3 mystic arts came from the 3 divine beasts. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat, and his eyes lit up. He suddenly thought of a possibility. This murderous aura might have something to do with the white tiger. Only then could this murderous aura be able to seal the power of most of the demonic beasts. Legend had it that the 4 divine beasts were the ancestors of the dragons, phoenixes, tigers, and turtles. They were born in the chaos and ruled over thousands of living beings. In terms of bloodline, the divine beasts were even more powerful than the forbidden beasts. Back on the Dragon Abyss planet, when the green dragon divine soul on the prison-suppressing cauldron awakened, the dragon phoenix divine soul in Su Zimo's primordial spirit felt suppressed. This showed how terrifying the 4 divine beasts were. If the murderous aura on the battlefield in Shura came from the white tiger, then many things could be explained. The white tiger was located in the west, and it specialized in killing. And this murderous aura contained killing, violence, cruelty, and other emotions. If a cultivator's Tao heart was not stable, they would naturally be invaded by this murderous aura and lose their rationality. And the fallen Shura, Yiksha, and other demonic beasts on the battlefield were also controlled by this murderous aura. They only knew how to kill, and that was why they attacked Su Zimo and the others crazily. There was another important point. His flesh could absorb the murderous aura on the battlefield. It was not because of Qinglian's real body, but because of the mystic art on the 4th wall of the prison-suppressing cauldron. This secret technique was passed down from the white tiger Saint Soul. After the prison-suppressing cauldron was repaired, Su Zimo had obtained the inheritance of this secret technique. However, in the past few years, every time he tried to cultivate, he failed. As a matter of fact, it was extremely difficult for the human race to cultivate the hell-suppressing cauldron's 4 holy souls. The reason why Su Zimo had not encountered any obstacles while practicing the first 3 secret arts was because he had received many inheritances from the 3 tribes. He had once condensed the dragon phoenix true body, so it was natural for him to cultivate the 9 flashes of the true dragon and the Nanming primordial fire. As for the 1 heavenly primordial water that came from the black tortoise holy soul, he had also obtained the innate abhijna of the spirit turtle shield from the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness. Therefore, it was not difficult to cultivate. However, the 4th secret technique came from the white tiger Saint Soul. Up until now, he had not even cultivated any cultivation methods or secret skills related to the tiger clan, let alone the white tiger. Therefore, he had not been able to successfully cultivate the 4th legacy secret technique. He had even thought that if his brothers in the lower world, the tiger, were by his side, they might be able to help him. However, the monkey, the tiger, and the little fox had ascended for many years, so they would definitely not be in the heaven realm. Naturally, he could not contact them. Brother Su, Xie Qingcheng, who was beside him, saw that Su Zimo was still silent, so she tried to call out to him again. Ah! Su Zimo came back to his senses and smiled apologetically. It's nothing. After pondering for a while, Su Zimo said, There are still more than 20 days before the seal seizing. During this time, anything can happen. Xie Qingqing could clearly hear the hidden meaning in Su Zimo's words. Su Zimo said, If anything happens to me during this time, don't be anxious. Don't give up until the last moment. As for the blood qi, it was only his own speculation. He was not sure, so he did not explain it to Xie Qingqing. Okay. Xie Qingqing did not pursue the matter. She took a deep breath and agreed. The group continued along the streets of the ancient city. The surrounding buildings were long dilapidated. However, it was not hard to guess from the silhouettes of the buildings that human cultivators, like them, lived in this ancient city in the past. After walking for a while more, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he sensed a slight fluctuation of essence chi. He glanced sideways at a house not far away by the side of the street. This residence seemed to be relatively well preserved. Let's take a look over there. Su Zimo pointed and headed towards the house with Xie Qingqing. When they arrived, Su Zimo pushed the door open without hesitation. The door could not withstand the external force and collapsed, causing dust to fly everywhere. Everyone casually released a few clear dust techniques to disperse the dust in the surroundings. In my opinion, why don't we settle down here? Xie Qingqing looked around. The house was not small, and there were more than 10 houses around it for everyone to rest. Su Zimo nodded and had no objections. Following the slight fluctuation of essence chi, he arrived in front of a house and gently pushed open the door. The room was not big, and there were some tables, chairs, beds and kitchen utensils in it. Su Zimo's gaze shifted to the wall beside him. It was covered in thick dust and cobwebs. Through it, he could vaguely see some marks carved on the wall. The fluctuation of essence chi was emitted from that wall. Su Zimo waved his sleeves and cleared the dust and cobwebs on the wall. He focused his gaze. There were patterns carved on the wall, as though they were depicting a great battle that happened here back then. However, the patterns were no longer clear under the erosion of time. He could only roughly make out some living beings with obvious characteristics. There was a Shura inside that looked indomitable. Its head was already above the clouds, as it looked down at the ground with a sinister gaze. Su Zimo counted. This Azura actually had as many as 8 arms. According to Sky Wolf, only the Dharch Realm Shura had 8 arms. Even after so many years, Su Zimo could still sense the terrifying might of the Azura through that tattered diagram. Wielding different weapons with 8 arms, the Azura's might was unparalleled, and his martial prowess was unparalleled. Other than the Shura race, Su Zimo also saw the Yiksha race. The 2 types of Yikshas they encountered on the battlefield were also shown on this pattern. There was a small line of words beside the Yiksha race. According to what was written, the Yiksha race had 3 major branches. The Yiksha that Su Zimo and the rest encountered at the beginning belonged to the Earth Yiksha. Later on, the Yiksha that flew down from the sky like a giant bat belonged to the Heavenly Yiksha. There was also the Water Yiksha that lived in the rivers, lakes and seas. Other than the 3 major Yiksha branches, there was an even more powerful Yiksha called the Void Yiksha. It was said that there were very few of them. Chapter 2501. Yiksha was a Sanskrit word that translated as swift ghost. It could bite ghosts, move nimbly and valiantly, appearing and disappearing unpredictably. The pattern on the wall had long been blurred. Su Zimo looked at it carefully, but could not find any clues about the blood aura. According to Xie Ling, there was a lake condensed from blood aura in the center of the ancient city. That was the source. Su Zimo left this place and set off to take a look at the center of the ancient city. You guys rest here. I'll go out for a walk. Su Zimo said to Xie Qingqing. Okay. Xie Qingqing nodded. After arriving at the ancient city, there was no Shura clan and other undead chasing after him, so there was no danger for the time being. Su Zimo left the house
the Jade Purity
and walked
Jade
towards
book
the
was
center
taken
of the
away in a
ancient
battle
city.
of the same level.
As he went deeper and
Then
deeper,
it was Su Zimo's
the
own
blood aura
cultivation
around
that
him
was
became
not
heavier
strong
and
enough,
denser, and he
the
couldn't
range
blame
that his
anyone
vision
else.
and divine sense
However,
could explore
as
was
perfected
still
immortals,
shrinking.
relying on his
move on
spirit
Su Zimo,
perception,
it would
Su
be bullying
Zimo was
the weak.
fearless as he
The
sped
divine
forward
firmament
in huge
palace
strides.
couldn't afford to lose
About an
face
hour
like
later,
this.
he gradually slowed down. Suddenly,
It's predicted
Su
that the
Zimo
6
leaped up and
perfected
stood
immortals
in
in
the
the
top 10
Looking
of the heaven
down,
list.
he could see a
will
gigantic
besiege
lake
Su
appearing
Zimo
from
not
the
too far
academy.
away. This
An
kid is going
endless
to be
stream of
eliminated.
blood aura was spreading out from
crossed
this
his
lake.
arms.
In the
Looking like
center
he
of
was
the
watching
lake,
a show.
through the blood
Shen
mist,
Hong also
he could
pursed her
vaguely
lips
see a
and
small
said,
island.
looking at the situation,
Unsurprisingly,
the
if
Ling
it were
Xiaxil was
Yin
on
Ting or
it.
Qinggu,
Su Zimo
it would be
landed
difficult
back
for them
and
to
came to the
escape
edge of the
unscathed.
lake.
He
Su
focused
Zimo
his
looked
vision
at the lake
and
in
looked
front
at
of
the
him.
lake.
Deep
The
in
lake
thought
was
and
dark
hesitant
and suffused
with a
Suddenly,
strange blood
his
light.
heart skipped a
He
beat.
could not see anything.
He narrowed his eyes
and did not
slightly
know
and
what was in
slowly
the
turned
lake.
around.
Su
Looking
Zimo
at the
took out a
depths of the
useless
blood
heaven
fog
grade
in front
magic
of him,
treasure,
he said,
from his storage
Since
bag.
everyone is here,
He operated
show
his
yourselves.
divine sense,
Clap,
and
clap,
controlled
clap.
this heaven grade
Luo
magic
Yang
treasure
Celestial
to
was the
speed
first
towards
to
the
walk
lake.
out.
As
She
soon as
clapped
this
her
heaven-grade
hands and
magic
looked at
treasure
Suzumo
entered the range of
meaningfully.
the lake, she said,
A few strands of
Suzumo,
blood aura
I
condensed.
didn't expect to see
as
you
if
here
forming a
after we
huge
parted
beast
on the
head,
Long Yuan
emitting
planet.
a ferocious and
Yuhai also
terrifying
walked
aura.
out from another
Even
part of the
Suzumo,
blood fog and
who was
praised.
standing at the
What
edge of the
sharp
lake,
senses?
could clearly
I can't
feel
hide
it.
from you.
He was extremely
Immediately
decisive
after,
and
Song
directly
Su
cut off the connection
holding the
between his
executioner's
divine
saber in
sense
his hand
and the
His
heaven-grade
entire
magic
body
treasure.
was filled with
The
murderous
beast had
aura.
opened its
He
bloody
stared
mouth
at Suzumo
and instantly
as if he
swallowed
could
this
kill him at any
heaven-ranked
time.
magic treasure.
Yo, it's
Then,
so lively.
The beast's
The
head
red-haired
glanced in the direction of
also
Suzumo.
slowly appeared.
Its eyes were
with a
cold
cynical
and filled
smile
with
on her
endless
face.
killing intent.
A blazing light
That single
broke through the
glance
blood
sent
fog,
chills down
and Lai
Suzumo's
Xian
spine.
walked out slowly.
If he hadn't
Looking
severed
at
his
the
divine
perfected
sense with the
immortals in the
heaven-ranked
top
magic
10 of the
treasure
heaven
earlier,
list.
then this
Suzumo
beast
looked
head
calm
might even have
and was
chased
not
after him.
surprised.
It seemed that
Suzumo,
Xiaoling was right.
do you have any last
It was
words?
impossible to cross
Song
the
Su
lake.
asked coldly.
At the very least,
Suzumo did not
with his
answer.
current cultivation,
He looked at the depths
he was
of the blood
completely
fog on the
unable
other
to
side
resist
and
the
said,
devouring of
Zhong
this blood
Feiyu,
fiendish chi.
how long are you going
The
to
six
stay in
true
there?
immortals of the divine
Interesting.
firmament's palace,
After a moment of
who were
silence,
hovering in the
a
air
chuckle
above the
suddenly
ancient
came
city,
from the blood fog.
had also noticed
Zhong
what was
Feiyu
happening.
looked at Suzumo,
Shenzhe smiled
and his figure
faintly and
slowly
said,
appeared.
This
He said
Suzumo
in
is quite
surprise,
cautious.
You can
And
find
his
my
reaction
trace?
is also fast.
Seeing that everyone
no
had
wonder
arrived,
he could avoid
Suzumo
shadowless
asked calmly,
assassination.
Why?
Fairy
Are you all
divine
going to
Crane
attack
suddenly
together?
frowned.
He's in
Yuhai was the
trouble.
first to take
Not
a step
only
back.
her,
But
he
the
spread
other
out his
five
hands and
perfected
said,
immortals had
I'm
also
just here
noticed
to
that
join
within
in
the
the
blood
fun.
fog,
You guys
there were
continue.
6 figures
He
moving
was
in
indeed
different
tempted
directions,
by the jade purity
stealthily
jade
moving
scroll.
towards Suzumo's
But there were
position.
5 people ranked
They were
above
getting
him.
closer and
The
closer.
situation was chaotic.
I can understand
and he
why
did not
Song
want to
Su
get
and Zhong
involved.
Feiyu want to
However,
deal with
the 6
Suzumo.
people's
After
positions
all,
were very particular.
This kid has a deep
They
grudge
formed a
with the great
semicircle
Jin
formation,
celestial nation,
blocking
and
all of
Zither Fairy of
Suzumo's
the flying
escape routes.
celestial sect.
Although Yuhai
Shenhong
said that he would
perfected
not
immortal
interfere,
frowned. His
but Lai
position still
Xian,
blocked one of
Xie
Suzumo's
Tianhuang,
escape routes.
Yuhai,
If
and
Su
Luo
Zimo
Yang
chose
don't
to
seem to have
escape in
any
his
grudges
direction,
with this kid,
he would be
right?
sending himself
Shenyan
to his
chuckled and
doorstep,
said,
and he
Don't
would have no
forget,
choice
this
but to
kid has
accept
the
it.
Jade Purity Jade book.
Not to mention the 4 of them. Even I am tempted. It's just that due to my status, I can't make a move. In the eyes of the 6 people, Su Zimo was already a bird in a cage. Song Su said, The Jade Purity Jade Scroll is with him, but I think we should kill him first, and then decide on the Jade Purity. Before Song Su could finish, his face suddenly changed. Su Zimo's figure had disappeared from the spot. A biting cold murderous intent instantly shrouded him. When Su Zimo appeared again, he was already behind Song Su. Without hesitation, he reached out his hand and slammed it down on Song Su's head. Song Su came from the Dajin celestial nation. There was no room for negotiation between the two of them. Song Su wanted to kill him, and he did not plan to let him go. This move was indeed beyond everyone's expectations. No one expected that Su Zimo would not escape when surrounded by the 6 of them. Instead, he dared to attack them first. Chapter 2502. Although he was unprepared, Song Su's reaction speed was extremely fast due to his countless life and death experiences. He didn't turn around, and he didn't have time. Su Zimo's attacks were ferocious and fast. At this level, any mistake could lead to serious injuries. Song Su's back was facing Su Zimo as he executed the execution steps, and blades appeared under his feet. The execution steps wasn't just a movement technique, but also a counterattack technique. Numerous blades tore open a gap under Su Zimo's great chaos palm, and Song Su dodged to the side. This reaction showed Song Su's strength. None of the experts in the top 10 of the heaven list were easy to deal with, especially someone like Song Su, who was able to sit at the top of the Great Jin Celestial Nation's executioner guard. Who knew how many corpses and blood he had stepped on? Song Su's counterattack didn't stop there. After avoiding Su Zimo's great chaos essence palm, Song Su suddenly opened his mouth and released an ear-piercing sound domain secret skill that resembled metal clashing. At the same time, Song Su pulled out his executioner's saber and slashed at Su Zimo. At the same time, Zhong Feiyu, Lai Xian, Xie Tianhuang, and Luo Yang prepared to attack. If Su Zimo was killed by Song Su alone, then they wouldn't have a reason to snatch the Jade Purity book and divide the other treasures on Su Zimo. Everyone wanted a share of the loot. Roar! Just as Song Su used the sound domain secret technique, Su Zimo also used the dragon roar secret technique, and a deafening roar came from the depths of his throat. This dragon roar secret technique was created by combining many sound domain secret techniques with the Azure Dragon's roar as the foundation. Even the murderous aura couldn't suppress it. The dragon roar instantly suppressed Song Su's sound domain secret technique. Zhong Feiyu and the others felt the terrifying power contained in the dragon roar secret technique, and they didn't dare to be careless. Although Xie Tianhuang also knew the heavenly phoenix cry, she couldn't release it due to the suppression of the blood qi in the Shura battlefield. She could only retreat, temporarily leaving the range of the dragon roar secret technique. On the other hand, Zhong Feiyu, Lai Xian, and Luo Yang Heavenly Immortal didn't retreat. Instead, they unleashed their respective sound domain secret techniques and went against the flow. Ever since Su Zimo cultivated the dragon roar mystic technique, he was practically invincible among those of the same rank. At close range, cultivators with weak physical bodies would be killed on the spot. Even if his physical body and bloodline were extraordinary, he would still suffer a great impact and lose his focus, allowing him to seize the initiative and take control of the situation. But now, in the battlefield of Shura, Su Zimo was unable to release the Six Fangs God power. Su Zimo's strength was far from reaching its peak. The power of the Dragon Roar secret technique was also greatly reduced. On top of that, Song Su was an expert in close combat, and his body and bloodline were strong. With the support of Zhong Feiyu, Lai Xian, and Luo Yang Heavenly Immortal, the Dragon Roar secret art did not have any effect. Several sound domain secret techniques clashed in midair and soon dissipated. He predicted that the top 10 on the heaven leaderboard would be more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. Humph! Su Zimo's expression didn't change. His body suddenly flickered and disappeared again. Swoosh! Song Su's backhand slash missed. All of a sudden, Su Zimo appeared beside him once more and clenched his fingers into the shape of a sword, pointing towards the back of Song Su's head with a sharp glint. Clang! Song Su didn't turn around. He twisted his body, and the executioner's saber suddenly appeared from under his ribs. It clashed with Su Zimo's saber, and a crisp sound rang out. Both of them trembled slightly. At the same time, Su Zimo released his 3 heads and 6 arms. His 6 palms conjured hand seals continuously as he channeled his spirit consciousness. Then, he released 4 supreme divine abilities consecutively in the direction of Zhong Feiyu, Lai Xian, and Heaven Immortal Luo Yang. Circle Prison. A giant cage suddenly appeared under Zhong Feiyu's feet and instantly enveloped Zhong Feiyu. Fleeting Youth. This superpower instantly descended and slashed at Lai Xian. Kill Formula. The 3rd superpower was released and charged at Luo Yang Heavenly Immortal. Permitha Bridge. A shimmering golden bridge extended beneath Su Zimo's feet and tore through the air. charging towards Xie Tianhuang, who was charging over. Releasing 4 superpowers consecutively had a high demand on one's primordial spirit. If one's primordial spirit wasn't condensed enough, it would most likely collapse on the spot. Su Zimo's first move was 1 against 5. These 4 superpowers couldn't kill Zhong Feiyu and the other 3, but they could delay them for a moment. The time he had gained was for him and Song Su to have a one-on-one fight. Song Su obviously realized this as well. How dare you? He wasn't afraid at all. His eyes shone brightly as he stabilized his footing. His left hand formed a hand seal and activated his primordial spirit, releasing his superpowers. 5 Horses Dismemberment. The Great Jin Celestial Nation had 10 execution superpowers. Each of them was extremely powerful and vicious. Generally speaking, only those of the royal bloodline or cultivators who had contributed greatly to the Great Jin Celestial Nation could learn them. 5 Horses Dismemberment was one of them. The fact that Song Su could cultivate this superpower showed that his status in the Great Jin Celestial Nation was not low. Endless power of divine powers circled around Su Zimo. The reason why this superpower was so powerful was that it contained not only the power of killing, but also the power of confinement. Shackles instantly formed on Su Zimo's neck, wrists, and ankles, locking him tightly. At the same time, these shackles were connected to 5 thick iron chains. The other end of the iron chains was wrapped around the 5 divine horses. They exerted force at the same time and galloped in 5 different directions. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes slightly. Indeed, there was a tearing sensation between the joints of Qinglian's limbs. Although it was not intense, it still made his heart skip a beat. After Song Su released 5 Horses Dismemberment, he did not stop. He raised his saber and slashed down on Su Zimo's head. Swoosh! A sinister and cold saber intent enveloped him. Su Zimo felt as though he was in a torture hell. Countless ghosts wandered around him with all sorts of torture tools in their hands. They were laughing sinisterly at him, ready to torture him at any time. He predicted that Song Su's counterattack would be so fierce and powerful. Suddenly, a resplendent starry sky appeared above Su Zimo's head. Billions of starlight fell and surged into his body, causing his strength to increase exponentially. The mystic spirit Big Dipper diagram descended and broke through Song Su's execution saber intent instantly. At the same time, Su Zimo made use of the power of the stars to break free from the shackles of 5 Horses Dismemberment. In a flash, he used the True Dragon's 9 flashes and appeared beside Song Su again, seizing the initiative. Song Su was already prepared for this. He had already backhanded his saber and chopped down. This time, after Su Zimo's figure appeared, he did not stop. In a flash, he disappeared and appeared on the other side of Song Su again. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo changed his position 4 times consecutively. Song Su was a little overwhelmed and could not determine where Su Zimo would land. Finally, he found a flaw. Chapter 2503. Su Zimo conjured sword seals with both hands, and his gaze was cold. A chilling killing intent burst forth from him, and surged into the clouds. Heaven's killing intent, shifting the stars. Earth's killing intent, dragon snake rising. Heaven slaying in his left hand, and earth slaying in his right. Su Zimo wielded the two sword arts, and was prepared to kill Song Su on the spot. That killing intent was way too strong. As the number one heavenly slaying guard, Song Su was in charge of punishment and killing. Even though he had an iron-blooded killing intent, he could not withstand it. Billions of heaven-slaying sword chi condensed into a heaven-slaying sword in Su Zimo's left hand, and slashed down. At the same time, the skies changed color and the earth quaked. Above Song Su's head, a divine dragon condensed from the earth-slaying sword chi was faintly discernible. Behind him, a soaring serpent broke out of the ground. Dragon snake combined strike, heaven and earth slaying. The earth-slaying sword chi was the pinnacle of killing. The malevolent blood chi also contained an extreme killing intent. Because the two of them were extremely similar, the suppression of the earth-slaying sword chi was not great. That was why Su Zimo was able to condense the dragon snake sword chi. Song Su's expression changed a few times as raging waves surged in his heart. To think that he would be forced into such a state in the battle between the two of them. Of course, he knew that as long as he could withstand Su Zimo's attack this time round, he would be able to avert danger. That was because on the other side, Zhong Feiyu and the others were about to break free as well. However, it was difficult for him to ensure that he could escape unscathed against the combined attack of heaven and earth slaying. Swoosh! Against this crisis, Song Su channeled his bloodline to its limits, and the sound of a tsunami surged within his body. A gigantic punishment blade appeared behind him. It was a bloodline phenomenon. The punishment blade slashed down towards the heaven-slaying sword in Su Zimo's left hand. Boom! The saber and sword collided with a deafening sound that shook the world. Song Su's bloodline phenomenon shook violently and almost collapsed. As for the heavenly slaying sword, it was smashed into pieces, turning into streams of origin chi that scattered into the void. At the same time, the dragon snake combined strike enveloped down. Song Su ignored the soaring serpent that broke out of the ground beneath his feet, and slashed towards the divine dragon in midair. Clang! The saber stood on top of the divine dragon's head. Both of them trembled and went still. It was as if time and space had frozen. Following that, countless dragon scales fell off the divine dragon's body. The earth-slaying sword chi's divine dragon dissipated on the spot, vanishing into nothingness. At this moment, Song Su had no time to resist the soaring serpents of sword chi behind him, and he could only release his origin energy to surge into the executioner armor on his body, causing numerous markings to surge out. The soaring serpent slammed heavily into his back. Pooh! Song Su felt as if he was struck by lightning, his body trembled, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The light of the executioner armor he was wearing quickly dimmed. Although the executioner's armor had been reduced to scrap metal, it had helped him block most of the damage from the earth-slaying sword chi. To him, this injury could be healed in the span of a few breaths. Pooh! A great spear pierced through Su Zimo's head, but no blood appeared. This head was one of the heads condensed from the 3 heads and 6 arms. Even if it shattered, it wouldn't affect him much. Yu Hai, who had been watching from the side, finally made his move. He was quite particular about the timing of his attack. When Song Su was in danger, he didn't help Song Su resolve the crisis or block the damage. After all, to him, even if Song Su was killed by Su Zimo, it would mean that he had one less competitor. Yu Hai made his move, and went straight for Su Zimo. At that time, Su Zimo was holding the dual-killing sword chi of heaven and earth. Although he sensed Yu Hai's movement, he couldn't be distracted and ignored it. He wanted to kill Song Su first before dealing with Yu Hai. He didn't expect Song Su to have so many trump cards that he could survive the dual-killing sword chi of heaven and earth. What a pity, Su Zimo thought to himself. If he could release the 6 Fangs' divine power, or cultivate to level 7 Heaven Immortal, his combat strength would be doubled or even more. Just now, it would be a different situation. Boom! On the other side, Zhong Feiyu broke free from the divine power of prison painting and rushed over. Luoyang Heaven Immortal and Xie Tianhuang followed almost at the same time and surrounded him. It was just the kill character formula and the Permitha Bridge's exceptional Abhijna, which posed no threat to the two of them. The only one who was in trouble was Lai Xian. As soon as the fleeting youth was released, the experience he gained from countless battles of life and death reminded him that this peerless mystique was extremely dangerous. Lai Xian didn't dare to be careless and released 2 divine powers. However, that sense of danger didn't disappear. Instead, it became even stronger. On the battlefield, amidst the earth-shattering collisions, he even keenly caught a trace of a strange drum sound. Oh no! Lai Xian suddenly remembered the evaluation of Su Zimo on the heaven ranking. It said that Su Zimo was skilled in a divine power that could reduce one's lifespan. It was extremely powerful. Lai Xian didn't have time to think. He directly activated his bloodline to the extreme and released the bloodline avatar. Behind him, his blood chi surged and blazing suns appeared one after another. They emitted a bedazzling brilliance and spewed scorching flames. In the blink of an eye, 7 blazing suns appeared. The sense of danger was still there. Lai Yan's eyes flashed with decisiveness as she strengthened her bloodline again. Whoosh! In this bloodline avatar, after the 7 blazing suns, 2 more blazing suns appeared. 9 blazing suns descended, illuminating the world. 9 suns in the sky. The Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom's top cultivation technique, the Flaming Sun Sutra, could only be cultivated by the royal family. Legend had it that 9 suns in the sky was the peak of the Flaming Sun Sutra. Before this, Lai Xian had only summoned 8 blazing suns at most when he fought with others. But now, Su Zimo's casual divine power almost forced him to use his strongest trump card. 9 suns in the sky. The sense of danger in his heart finally disappeared. Before the power of the fleeting youth divine ability could descend upon Lai Xian, it was burned into vital energy by the 9 burning suns behind him and dissipated into the air. Lai Xian stood on the spot, his breathing unstable as he felt a lingering fear. If he hadn't reacted quickly, who knew what terrifying consequences would have happened just now? Lai Xian slowly calmed himself down and didn't go up to kill Su Zimo immediately. This kid's combat strength is ranked 24th on the heaven ranking? What kind of joke is this? Lai Xian's heart was suddenly filled with anger. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that this kind of skill was ranked in the top 10 of the heaven ranking. At the same time, Lai Xian had another thought. This Su Zimo was only a rank 6 heavenly immortal now, and he could already use such skills. If he cultivated to rank 9, how powerful would he be? You deserve to die. Zhong Feiyu was the first to arrive. Without seeing him do anything, a sword light appeared. It flashed and disappeared. Su Zimo didn't have time to react. He just instinctively dodged with his spiritual sense. Splat! Su Zimo's head was pierced again. 2 of his arms were also silently chopped off. At this point in the battle, Su Zimo's 3 heads and 6 arms were almost crippled. Xie Tianhuang and Luo Yang's divine powers and secret techniques also enveloped him. Chapter 2504. In the sky above the ancient city, the 6 perfected immortals of the divine firmament palace saw the fierce battle below. Although the battle was short, the 6 perfected immortals' eyes lit up. The 6 perfected immortals already knew about Zhong Feiyu's methods and combat power. There was also a detailed introduction on the heaven leaderboard. However, the 6 perfected immortals did not know much about him. Because Su Zimo's battle results were too few, only 2, they couldn't make an accurate evaluation. What happened just now made the 6 perfected immortals re-evaluate Su Zimo's ranking on the heaven leaderboard. Shenhong praised. He fought against 5 at the beginning, but he wasn't defeated. Instead, he fought back and even injured Song Se. This kind of combat power and control of the situation is a little scary. Just a peerless divine power was enough to force Lai Xian to use the 9 suns in the sky bloodline phenomenon. It really surprised me. Shenze still couldn't believe it. It's a pity that this kid's cultivation is a little low. If it's a life and death battle, he still has too many weaknesses. Xinyan looked regretful. Although he didn't say it explicitly, the other perfected immortals understood. If one's cultivation was low, they would have obvious weaknesses in terms of essence qi, essence spirit,
consumption and head-on battles. Su Zimo had injured Song Su in the battle just now, but that kind of injury didn't affect Song Su at all. If the battle continued, Song Su would still win in everyone's opinion. Shunhe suddenly said. Even so, I think this kid's ranking is enough to be in the top 10. Of course. Shunfeng nodded. The others didn't have any objections to this ranking. Even if Su Zimo tore the teleportation talisman and left the battlefield in Shura, the combat power he showed just now was enough to be in the top 10 of the Heaven leaderboard. Shunhong took out the Heaven leaderboard and slowly opened it, raising Su Zimo's ranking from 24th to 10th. The Duke of Heavenly Phoenix, who was originally 10th, was pushed to 11th. Who's going to write the evaluation? Shunhong asked. Shunhe, I think she thinks highly of Su Zimo, Shunfeng said with a smile. Okay. Fairy Divine Crane did not decline. She stepped forward and condensed her true essence at her fingertips. Using her finger as a pen, she prepared to write her latest evaluation of Su Zimo on the Prediction Heaven list. It was predicted that the higher one's ranking was on the Heaven leaderboard, the harder it would be to improve. For example, Su Zimo, who was originally ranked 24th, had risen by more than 10 places. He had to give a convincing reason. Wait. Fairy Divine Crane was about to write when the other true immortals suddenly spoke up and stopped her. When Fairy Divine Crane saw them frowning and looking at the ancient city below with serious expressions, she subconsciously looked over as well. In the center of the ancient city, the 6 predicted powerhouses on the Heaven list regrouped. They put away their contempt, and the pressure on Su Zimo increased greatly. These 6 people were much more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. All of them were ruthless people. Song Su let him get close to him and continuously used his killer moves to attack him. If it was any other cultivator, they would have died long ago. Song Su only spat out a mouthful of blood, and in the blink of an eye, his injuries were healed. Of course, if Su Zimo continued to attack Song Su, with his means, he still had a 70% chance of killing Song Su on the spot. But this was almost his limit. Other than killing Song Su, he did not have any energy left to continue fighting with the other 5 people. He could only escape. Su Zimo was already prepared to enter the bottom of the lake behind him to find out what was going on. If he killed Song Su and entered the bottom of the lake, the Duke of Mingjiang would definitely vent his anger on Xie Qingcheng and eliminate her early. At that time, even if he could find out the secret at the bottom of the lake and come back alive, he would not have the chance to help Xie Qingcheng obtain the Lingxia seal. At this point, Su Zimo had already made up his mind. Facing the attacks of Zhong Feiyu, Luo Yang Tianxian, and Xie Tianhuang, he formed the immovable deity seal and entered a defensive posture. Boom! Boom! Luo Yang Tianxian and Xie Tianhuang's peerless powers descended and attacked Su Zimo's body. Even the immovable deity seal could not withstand it. Su Zimo could not control his body and kept retreating. Zhong Feiyu's sword appeared again, but this time round, Su Zimo made use of his powerful spirit perception to grab the sword that was as thin as a cicada's wing with his bare hands. He felt a sharp pain in his palm and blood dripped out. Good sword, Su Zimo praised. This praise came from the bottom of his heart. Qinglian's true body was cultivated to the 11th grade. She also cultivated the Pure Jade Manual, Divine Elephant Breath Devouring Technique, Void Thunder Manual, and other powerful body refining techniques. Her flesh was already indestructible, and was even stronger than a Xiantian heaven-grade magical treasure. But now, Zhong Feiyu's thin sword was able to cut his palm. Of course, Su Zimo held the sword tightly. The tip of the sword was only a few millimeters away from his forehead. But Zhong Feiyu's sword could not pierce through. Zhong Feiyu channeled his blood essence and exerted force again. He held back and did not use his bloodline anomaly. He only channeled his blood essence to the level of tidal waves and stabbed forward with his sword. Su Zimo seemed to be unable to withstand this force and could only let go of his palm. In order to avoid Zhong Feiyu's sword, he retreated again. Stop chasing. Seeing this, Song Su and the others suddenly shouted. Zhong Feiyu seemed to have realized something and quickly stopped. Su Zimo's body was already above the lake. Above the lake, The murderous aura seemed to have been stimulated by something. It quickly condensed into vines and wrapped around Su Zimo's body. Under the gaze of Zhong Feiyu and the others, the murderous aura instantly pulled Su Zimo into the lake and disappeared. Su Zimo did not even have time to use his teleportation talisman. F*CK. Heaven Immortal Luo Yang cursed. Song Si's face was also gloomy and unresigned. After Su Zimo was swallowed by the murderous aura and fell into the lake, he would definitely die. However, they would not have the chance to obtain the pure jade manual and other treasures on him. A hint of joy flashed across the eyes of the Duke of Heavenly Phoenix. Falling into the lake meant falling into the hands of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom. At that time, if he could obtain the Lingxia seal, his father would be pleased, and might even allow him to cultivate the pure jade manual. Zhong Feiyu, you are too hasty. Song Si said coldly. He has used up all his trump cards and is trapped by us. He can't escape even if he has wings. Why did you throw him into the lake? Of course, Zhong Feiyu did not want to do so. Until now, he still did not understand why Su Zimo, who was so ferocious earlier, suddenly became so careless and retreated to the top of the lake, only to be swallowed by it. Although this was what he thought, Zhong Feiyu was a reincarnated true immortal and ranked above Song Si. Naturally, he would not show any weakness. You want the pure jade manual? Zhong Feiyu smirked and pointed at the lake behind him. It is in there. If you want it, go in and get it yourself. You. Song Si squinted his eyes, and a cold light flashed across them. Don't worry. I can guarantee that the pure jade manual is in good condition and will not be damaged by the murderous aura. Zhong Feiyu sneered again and turned to leave. Originally, with Su Zimo around, they had a common goal and could still maintain peace on the surface. However, now that Su Zimo was dead, the people on the heaven list were expected to return to their initial state of being wary and hostile towards each other. The remaining 5 people were unwilling to give up. They lingered at the edge of the lake for a long time before finally leaving.
Chapter 2505. Above the ancient city, the 6 perfected immortals of the divine firmament palace looked at the scene with complicated expressions and a hint of pity. It's a pity that this kid is still too young and lacks battle experience. He neglected his surroundings and ended up in such a state. Sigh. Shenhong sighed. Shenyan said, if he could tear the teleportation talisman in time, he could have escaped. It's a pity. To think that such a genius would fall in the battlefield of Shura. It's such a pity. A genius who dies prematurely is not a genius. Since ancient times, there have been countless geniuses who died prematurely. Who can remember them? The 5 of them discussed. Divine Crane Fairy frowned slightly and did not say a word, as if she still had not recovered from the scene. I'm afraid the predicted heaven list will have to be revised again. Shenhong smiled bitterly. This Su Zimo has created a new record. He just entered the top 10 of the heaven list, but he died and was removed from the list. If a cultivator on the heaven list died, they would naturally be removed from the list. The predicted heaven list was in Divine Crane Fairy's hands. The evaluation of Su Zimo's 10th place had not been written yet. When Shenhong saw that Fairy Divine Crane was not moving, she had no choice but to retrieve the heaven ranking and erase all information and traces related to Su Zimo from the heaven ranking. No. Divine Crane Fairy shook her head. What's wrong? Shen Yin said. Divine Crane, I know you think highly of this kid, but he's already dead. Naturally, he can't be on the predicted heaven list. Divine Crane Fairy said. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when he fell into the lake. Although it seems like he was forced down by Zhong Feiyu. Don't you think it's a little strange? Shenhong and the others looked at each other and did not say a word. In fact, when they saw Su Zimo fall into the lake, their first reaction was indeed a little shock and disbelief. Divine Crane Fairy continued. In the process of fighting the 6 heavenly immortals, his control of the situation, his reaction, and his methods were perfect. It shows that this kid is extremely talented in battle. How could he be defeated so suddenly? Moreover, he made such a low-level mistake and didn't even tear up the teleportation talisman when he had no way to retreat? Divine Wind speculated. Maybe he was just lucky? This kid was unwilling to leave, so he didn't tear up the teleportation talisman. By the time he realized how terrifying the lake was, it would already be too late. Fairy Shenkrane shook her head slightly, expressing her doubts. Shenhong didn't understand and asked, Shenhe, are you trying to say that Zhong Feiyu didn't force this kid to fall into the lake, but he did it on purpose? Fairy God Crane was silent. She did have this idea in her heart, although it sounded a little ridiculous. Shenzhe chuckled softly and said, could it be that this child has taken things too hard and is seeking his own death? Divine Crane, the lake below us is formed by blood evil qi. Even if we fall in, we might not survive. Shen Yin felt a little helpless. He smiled and said, it doesn't matter if he did it intentionally or not. He has already fallen into the lake. The result is death. Fairy Divine Crane did not answer. She activated her divine sense and probed into the lake as much as she could. Even with her divine sense, she was unable to reach the bottom of the lake. Probing the middle of the lake was already her limit. Suddenly, she detected a life force in the middle of the lake. It was extremely similar to Su Zimo's aura. He's not dead yet. Fairy Divine Crane's words were shocking, and her eyes lit up. The other 5 perfected immortals' expressions changed slightly. They knew that Fairy Divine Crane would not joke about this matter. They hurriedly extended their divine senses into the lake. As expected, they also felt Su Zimo's life force in the lake. Although it was fluctuating violently, it was obvious that he was still alive. He's not dead. The perfected immortal's eyes were filled with disbelief. Even if he's not dead, how long can he last in the blood evil lake? Shenzhe expressed his doubts about this matter. Shenyan pondered and said, moreover, even if he's lucky enough to crawl out alive, his primordial spirit and Tao heart will be eroded by the blood evil qi. This person will be completely crippled. Fairy Divine Crane said, regardless, as long as he's not dead, his name should not be removed from the heaven ranking. Shenhong said in a low voice, what Divine Crane said makes sense. However, after this calamity,
Whether he can recover his previous combat strength is still unknown. Moreover, the possibility of him being crippled is very high. I suggest that he be relisted on the heaven ranking. However, this ranking can only temporarily place him at the bottom of the heaven ranking. Fairy Divine Crane nodded. She had no objections to this arrangement. In the lake, a figure was slowly sinking. Fairy Divine Crane's guess was right. Su Zimo entering the lake was naturally part of his plan. After falling into the lake, the thick blood evil chi in the lake was much more terrifying than he had imagined. The blood evil chi had already condensed into a lake. One could only imagine the level of this power. An endless stream of blood evil chi flowed through Su Zimo's pores into his body, rampaging and destroying all life force. Even his sea of consciousness was invaded by the blood evil chi. Endless violent and murderous emotions battered his Tao heart. However, his Tao heart was firm and unshakable. He could still maintain his consciousness. He hurriedly recited the Prajna Nirvana Sutra. At the same time, he channeled the one heavenly primordial water to form a barrier around his body. This mystic technique passed down by the Black Tortoise Saint Soul was the most effective in the lake. Even so, the blood evil chi in the lake still surged in from all directions. The one heavenly primordial water's Tao heart could not withstand it at all. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly recited the mystic technique passed down by the White Tiger Saint Soul. Although he did not understand the meaning of this mystic technique, every time he recited it, the pressure around him would lessen a little. As expected, before this, he had only speculated. Now, he was almost certain that the blood evil chi in the Shura battlefield was definitely related to the White Tiger Saint Beast. This was the blood evil chi of the White Tiger. Su Zimo recited the mystic technique repeatedly. The blood evil chi's attack on him gradually weakened. Originally, to the blood evil chi in the lake, Su Zimo was just an outsider. That was why it attacked him so crazily. However, Su Zimo's repeated recitation of the mystic technique passed down by the White Tiger Saint Soul caused a trace of aura similar to the White Tiger's to appear on his body. He merged with the blood evil chi in the lake and became one. Normally, even a perfected immortal would not be able to withstand the corrosion of the blood evil chi in the lake. However, Su Zimo had already cultivated a mystic technique passed down by the White Tiger Saint Soul. This caused his body to have a trace of the White Tiger's aura. The blood evil chi in the surroundings would naturally not have any hostility towards someone with the White Tiger's aura. Su Zimo resolved the crisis and felt relieved. As he continued to fall, he vaguely sensed a strange feeling from another direction at the bottom of the lake. It resonated with the mystic technique he was reciting. Su Zimo followed this feeling and continued to dive towards the bottom of the lake.
Chapter 2506. Heaven and Earth Academy, Inner Court Square. Apart from some Academy cultivators, there were also thousands of heaven immortals from the various sects and factions of the divine firmament celestial realm. They all wanted to challenge Su Zimo. Later, when they heard that Su Zimo had entered the Shura battlefield and predicted that the heaven list would be updated in real time, these people did not leave. Firstly, they could watch the heaven list rankings here at any time. Secondly, when Su Zimo returned, they could immediately stop him. The battle for the seal was only a month away. Everyone could afford to wait. Heaven and Earth Academy valued etiquette, so they naturally could not casually chase away guests. Now that Su Zimo was not in the academy, everything was under Yan Bingying's control. Moreover, many academy disciples were extremely concerned about the results of this seal battle and gathered here together. The number of people in the square was increasing. "Look, there's a change in the rankings." Someone in the crowd screamed, "Oh my God! Senior brother Su is in the top 10. It's only been 2 days since the seal battle, but senior brother Su has risen by more than 10 places. It's too terrifying. Senior brother Su must have fought a tough battle. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to rise so many ranks and enter the top 10. Many academy disciples were excited as they discussed. Yan Bingying smiled, feeling a little happy. During this period of time, Heaven and Earth Academy had been provoked by these foreign cultivators. But Su Zimo had avoided the battle and attracted a lot of mockery. Now, seeing Su Zimo's ranking suddenly soar and enter the top 10, the Academy disciples felt elated. When these foreign cultivators saw the ranking, their expressions were a little ugly. They had originally thought that Su Zimo's ranking was too fake, so they dared to challenge him. They did not expect that Su Zimo would enter the top 10 of the heaven list as soon as the seal battle began. The Divine Firmament Palace's 6 perfected immortals were personally overseeing the Shura battlefield, so the record naturally could not be wrong. "Why aren't you saying anything?" A Academy disciple sneered. "Where's the arrogance from before? Our senior brother Su avoided the battle because he couldn't be bothered with you. Do you really think you're something? People have to know their limits. If you want to challenge senior brother Su, you have to reach that level first." In the face of the Academy disciples' mockery, the Stage 9 Heaven Immortals from the Flying Celestial Sect, Great Jin Celestial Kingdom, and Zixian Celestial Kingdom were embarrassed. The Flying Immortal Sect's Tianja smiled embarrassedly and said indifferently, "Fellow Taoist Su's methods are admirable. Are you still not leaving?" Yan Bingying asked her. This ranking was like a slap to the faces of these foreign cultivators. Many people were Zhiming Yu's disciple were, and they were ready to leave. The Great Jin Celestial Nation's Ling Mu continued to put up a strong front. He said stubbornly, "It won't be too late to leave after seeing the Divine Firmament Palace's evaluation." Heaven right at this moment, Zixian Immortal Kingdom's 100 Flower Fairy's expression changed. She pointed at the huge heaven ranking and shouted, "Look, Su Zimo's ranking has disappeared." Everyone turned to look at the prediction heaven list. Heaven Earth God. The King. S was Royal Duke King Duke. Everyone searched carefully on the ranking, but they could not find Su Zimo. All information about Su Zimo had disappeared. It was as if he had never been on the ranking. How could this be? What happened? The Academy disciples whispered among themselves. Ha. Ling Mu from the Great Jin Celestial Kingdom suddenly laughed. "I didn't expect Su Zimo to die in the Shura battlefield." "What did you say?" One of the Academy disciples frowned. "Senior brother Su's combat strength is in the top 10 of the ranking. How could he die so easily? You don't believe me?" Ling Mu sneered. "If he didn't die, he wouldn't have been removed from the ranking." Tianja from the Flying Celestial Sect nodded. "That's right. As long as Su Zimo is still alive, even if he was defeated in the Shura battlefield, his ranking would only drop slowly. There's only one possibility. He's dead." Yan Bingying's face turned pale. Although she didn't want to believe it, she knew that what Ling Mu said was mostly true. Ha. Fairy of 100 Flowers from the Zixuan Celestial Kingdom covered her mouth and laughed. "What a joke. Your senior brother Su is indeed an embroidered pillow. He looks good but is useless. He was in the top 10 of the ranking just now. How could? There were still many academy disciples who didn't want to believe it. Something went wrong. Tianjia smiled and said, Su Zimo was in the top 10 just now, but he didn't give any reason. He must have made a mistake in his hurry. Let's go. I didn't expect Su Zimo to be so weak. He died in the Shura battlefield after only 2 days. The disciples of the academy had mocked them just now, and these foreign disciples had seized the opportunity to speak harshly and make sarcastic remarks. Fellow cultivator Yen, we really have to go now. Tianjia cupped his hands and said, Su Zimo of the academy is dead. There's no point in us staying here. I won't see you out. Yen Bingying spat out 2 words with a cold face. Hey look, senior brother Su is on the heaven ranking again. Another exclamation came from the crowd. Everyone hurriedly turned their heads to look. Where? At the back. Why is he at the bottom of the ranking? No matter what, he's still on the heaven ranking. At least he's not dead. Everyone from the academy was relieved. He's not dead. Tianjia Lingmu and the others frowned. Fairy of 100 Flowers sneered. Even if he's not dead, at least it proves that we were right. Su Zimo of the academy is not good enough. He can only be at the bottom of the heaven ranking at most. Are you guys still leaving? Yen Bingying was a little impatient as she urged him. Of course not. Lingmu raised his head and said, We'll wait here and see what rank Su Zimo can reach in the end. If he can come back alive, we'll challenge him again. It was not just the Qingquan Academy. Countless cultivators from the major sects and forces of the Divine Firmament Celestial Realm were also paying attention to this seal battle and watching the heaven ranking update. Su Zimo's ranking on the heaven ranking fluctuated greatly, which caused a lot of commotion and speculation. However, even the 6 perfected immortals of the Divine Firmament Palace did not know the specific situation of Su Zimo at the bottom of the lake, so they did not rashly write. Therefore, Su Zimo's information on the heaven ranking did not change at all. Some people had already gone to the Fiery Sun Celestial Kingdom to investigate. At the same time, Su Zimo finally reached his destination at the bottom of the lake in the Shura battlefield. Half a bone was exposed in the mud at the bottom of the lake. Su Zimo's eyes lit up. The source of the blood fiend was this half a bone. The bone of the white tiger. Chapter 2507. Su Zimo took a step forward and pulled out the bone. The edges of the bone were rough and jagged. It should be a fragment of the white tiger's bone. Even so, when the bone fragment was fully revealed, it was even taller than his body and suffocated him with a ferocious aura. It was unimaginable how huge the white tiger's body was at its peak, and how ferocious it was when it grew such a bone. The bone fragment was left on the battlefield of the Shura. After countless years, the blood malevolence in the bone had yet to dissipate, forming such a lake. Su Zimo reached out and touched the surface of the bone gently. He could feel some slight bumps on the surface of the bone with his fingertips. Su Zimo took a step forward and looked at it. There were mysterious patterns on the surface of the bone that looked like mysterious runes. It was a work of the gods and looked like it was made by nature. Su Zimo channeled his essence chi and surged it into the white bones. All of a sudden, the runes on the surface of the white bone glowed brightly. Immediately after, the runes fell off and surged into Su Zimo's glabella. Su Zimo's essence spirit felt a sharp pain. Immediately after, some strange information appeared in his memory. The secret skill scripture imparted by the White Tiger Saint Soul was originally obscure and difficult to understand. But now, looking at this secret skill, Su Zimo felt enlightened. Su Zimo was overjoyed and chose to sit on the ground to cultivate this secret skill. The fourth secret skill of the hell-suppressing cauldron was called the White Tiger Devouring Corpse. It was also the only unparalleled killing move among the four secret skills. Among the four sacred beasts, the white tiger was located in the west and specialized in killing. Just the name of this secret skill was enough to make one's heart palpitate. According to the secret skill, if one wanted to cultivate the white tiger devouring corpse, they would have to continuously condense their own malevolent aura. The stronger the malevolent aura, the stronger the power of this secret skill. If the malevolent aura could materialize and reach the level of the white tiger saint beast, it would be as though the white tiger had descended to the world and was extremely murderous. And this lake was the best place to cultivate this secret technique. Without any hesitation, Su Zimo activated the secret technique and chanted the scripture in his heart, drawing the surrounding blood chi into his body. As soon as this blood entered his body, Su Zimo's expression changed greatly. He spat out a mouthful of blood and choked on a mouthful of water. The baleful blood chi in the lake had already solidified and condensed into lake water. Even true immortals would not be able to withstand it and would have to retreat in time. And when Su Zimo absorbed the infernal blood energy into his body, it naturally caused great damage to Qinglian's true body. Fortunately, he cultivated the white tiger sacred beast's inherited secret technique, so he had a certain degree of resistance against the surrounding white tiger blood fiend. Su Zimo's body was washed over by the white tiger's blood aura. The surface of his body broke apart and bloody scars appeared. Even the mouthful of lake water he had just choked on had turned into a terrifying white tiger blood fiend, surging into his organs and exploding with a loud bang. The powerful regeneration powers of Qinglian's true body circulated wildly and healed her internal and external injuries. Not only that, Qinglian's true body seemed to have sensed some sort of danger, and her bloodline started circulating on its own, devouring the white tiger blood fiend. The changes in his body shocked Su Zimo greatly. The creation Qinglian was unique in the world and had a powerful bloodline. However, it was still a plant after all. In front of the white tiger sacred beast, even the dragon phoenix had to bow down. Su Zimo initially thought that the creation Qinglian's bloodline would be suppressed as well. However, from the looks of it, the Qinglian's true body did not seem to be afraid at all. She started counterattacking rapidly against the invasion of the white tiger blood fiend. Every single wisp of white tiger blood fiend contained immense power. After all, that power originated from the white tiger bone. As for the bloodline of Qinglian's true body, after devouring the white tiger blood fiend and refining it, her strength was rising rapidly as well. Su Zimo's original intention was to cultivate the fourth secret skill. But now, while cultivating the secret skill, the Qinglian's true body also received a tremendous amount of power and was growing at an unimaginable speed. Of course, This process was a form of destruction and torture for Su Zimo. The Qinglian's true body was being torn apart and repaired continuously. Each time it was repaired, the Qinglian's true body would become even stronger, and the speed at which it devoured the white tiger blood fiend would increase. Initially, the Qinglian's true body could not refine too much white tiger blood fiend, and could only devour a few wisps. As time passed by, the Qinglian's true body became even stronger and could devour dozens, or even thousands of wisps of white tiger blood fiend. The stimulation of the white tiger blood fiend towards the Qinglian's true body instead triggered the Qinglian's bloodline completely. Sensing the changes in the Qinglian's true body, Su Zimo was delighted while enduring the pain. Normally, if he wanted to increase his cultivation level, the Qinglian's true body would need to absorb a large amount of resources. Even if he had enough elemental holy stones, it would take him at least 1,000 years to reach the 7th stage of heaven celestial through normal cultivation. But now, the power of the white tiger blood fiend had replaced the elemental holy stones, and was far more effective than absorbing them. At this rate of cultivation, the Qinglian's true body might even be able to break through to the 7th stage of heaven celestial within a month. From a certain point of view, the white tiger blood fiend that Qinglian's true body was refining was not the white tiger blood fiend, but the white tiger bone. To Su Zimo, this opportunity was simply a gift sent to his doorstep. It was a pleasant surprise. This also showed that when one reached the heaven celestial stage, one could not bury oneself in seclusion. One had to go out frequently to gain experience and obtain opportunities. After stepping into the heaven origin stage, Su Zimo's cultivation speed was even faster than when he was in the earth celestial stage. This was because he had obtained great opportunities during several trips out to gain experience. Naturally, no one knew about his situation at the bottom of the lake. Even the 6 true immortals of the Divine Firmament Palace, who were at the battlefield in Shura, could not detect the bottom of the lake. The 6 of them could only vaguely sense that there were life waves coming from the bottom of the lake, proving that Su Zimo was still alive. They did not know anything else. In a house in the ancient city, Xie Qingcheng and the others were resting here. Because of Su Zimo's instructions, they did not leave. However, 3 days had passed, and there was still no news of Su Zimo. The others began to discuss in secret. Although Xie Qingcheng looked calm on the surface, she was still worried. Although they also had the heaven ranking forecast, it was not updated in real time. Therefore, they did not know what kind of changes would occur on the heaven ranking forecast. On this day, Xie Qingqing felt more and more uneasy. She gathered Heaven Immortal Yu Ying and the others and said, "Brother Su has not returned for 5 days. Let's split into 4 groups and go out to look for him. Regardless of whether there are clues or not, we'll all gather here in 1 day." Heaven Immortal Yu Ying frowned and complained, "My lord, this ancient city is too big. There's blood fog everywhere. Looking for a person is like looking for a needle in a haystack. How is it possible? Yeah, what if he left the city? It's also possible that he has already left the battlefield in Shura." Xie Qingqing waved her hand and interrupted everyone. She said in a low voice, "Even if it's impossible, we have to go out and look for him. Don't forget, it was because of Brother Su that we were able to arrive here safely." Haha. At this moment, laughter came from outside the house. "Brother Qingqing, you don't have to look anymore. I can tell you where Su Zimo is." Chapter 2508. Outside the courtyard, dozens of heavenly immortals filed in. Xie Yan. Xie Qingqing frowned slightly. The leader of this group of cultivators was Duke Yan, who was highly regarded by the Flaming Sun Immortal King. Behind him was the reincarnated perfected immortal, who was predicted to be number 4 on the heaven ranking, Lai Xian. "You know where Brother Su is?" Xie Qingqing asked in a deep voice. "Of course." A gloating expression flashed past Duke Yan's face as he laughed. "Your brother Su was forced into the blood-malevolent lake by Zhong Feiyu, and is already dead." Ah! Heavenly Immortal Yu Ying and the others were shocked as they exclaimed. Xie Qingqing clenched her fists instinctively and gritted her teeth. "That's impossible. Brother Su had a teleportation talisman. Even if he couldn't win, he could have escaped from the Shura battlefield." What's impossible about that? Duke Yin sneered. Zhong Feiyu personally attacked. How could Su Zimo, someone who is predicted to be number 24 on the heaven ranking, have a chance of escaping? Furthermore, Brother Lai witnessed this personally. Lai Xian raised his head and looked at Duke Yin in front of him. He did not say anything, as though he agreed to it. Although Duke Yin had not been present, he had already told Duke Yin everything that had happened. Zhong Feiyu was not the only one who forced Su Zimo into the blood-malevolent lake. Duke Yin knew that, but he said that on purpose. His intention was to divert the blame to Princess Yu Yan and Zhong Feiyu. Lai Xian could tell what Duke Yin was thinking, but he could not expose it. However, he did not want to lie either, which was why he remained silent. Brother Su is dead? Xie Qingqing's eyes reddened as she shook her head slightly. If you dare to touch
Still
me,
unwilling to believe
I don't mind crippling you
Heavenly
right
Immortal
now
Yu
and
Ying
chasing
sighed
you out of the
softly.
battlefield of Shura.
Zhong Feiyu is a
Xie Qingqing
reincarnated
panted
perfected
slightly,
immortal,
and the rage
is
in her
predicted
eyes
to be
gradually
number 3 on the
subsided.
heaven ranking.
Only by
If he
tolerating what
attacked,
others could
Su
not
Zimo
tolerate
would
could
indeed
one
not stand
achieve
a
what
chance.
others could not.
Another person
That was what
said,
his mother said
Su
to him
Zimo
before
has a
she
deep
passed
feud
away,
with Zither
and
immortal
he had
Ming
always
Yao,
remembered
and
it in
Zhong
his
Feiyu
heart.
is from the same
If not
sect
for
as
that
her.
tolerance,
It
he would
makes
not
sense
have been
for him
able
to
to
attack
survive
Su Zimo.
until now. Duke
Lai
Yin
Xian
raised his
looked
head
at Xie
slightly
Qingqing deeply
and
and
thought to himself,
I'm here to give you a chance.
How ambitious
What
does
do you
this
mean?
lad have to be
Xie
able to
Qingqing
endure
frowned.
this
Duke
humiliation?
Yin said,
Be it
Su
in terms
Zimo,
of
your
talent,
subordinate,
bloodline,
was
or
already
status
killed by
Duke Yin
Zhong
surpassed
Feiyu.
Xie Qingqing.
If you want to avenge
However,
him,
you
in
can
Lai
only work
Xian's
with
opinion,
me. After
Xie
all,
Qingqing might
I
not
have
be
Brother
inferior
Lai by
to
my
Duke
side
Yin
to
in the
help me.
future.
I can
In
fight
fact,
against Zhong
he even
Feiyu.
had a feeling that this
Naturally,
beautiful
Duke
Duke
Yin
Yin
should stop
before him
seizing
might
seals.
truly be able to
If you
stand
help me
out from
obtain
the
the
other
link
heirs
shares
of
of
the
the
royal family
you will
one
also
day.
have a position
Very
under
good.
my command in
When
the
Duke
future.
Yin saw Xie
Xie
Qingqing lowering
was
her
so
head
angry that
and
she
not
laughed.
daring to meet his
When
gaze,
he mentioned that Su
he nodded
Zimo had
with
the
died.
satisfied
The
expression,
gloating
he
expression
looked
on
at the
Duke
dozens
Yan's
of
face
heaven
made
immortals
him feel
behind Xie
disgusted.
Qingqing and said,
Now Prince Yan's
Your master is
condescending tone
unwilling
made
to
him feel
submit.
even more
I'll give
conflicted.
you guys a chance
Duke
now.
Yin made it sound
Either
nice.
stand over right
The
now,
two of them would
or
join
I'll send
forces
you guys
to
out
take
of the
revenge for
battlefield of
Su
Shura.
Zimo.
But
The
in
dozens
reality,
of heaven immortals
Duke Yin
looked
wanted
at
him
Xie
to submit to
Qingqing
him
instinctively.
As for Brother
Xie
Su's
Qingqing
matter,
was expressionless
I will
and
naturally
silent.
seek justice
He could
for him.
already tell that
Xie
Duke Yin
Qingqing
was
waved
here
her
to
hand
take over
and said
his
impatiently,
subordinates
to
As for
replenish
the
the heaven
alliance,
immortals
there's no need
that
to
he had
mention
lost
it again.
earlier.
You can
Duke
leave
Yin,
now.
I'm sorry.
Hearing
Heaven
this,
immortal Yu
Duke
Yin
Yin
was
was
the
the
first
first to
instantly
stand out.
darkened.
A fine bird
said
chooses
icily,
a fine tree to
Xie
nest in.
Qingqing,
You really
scram.
don't know what's good
Xie
for you.
Qingqing cut him
What
off
did you
without
say?
even looking at him.
Xie Qingqing
Heaven
glared at
immortal
him
Yu Ying
angrily.
was snubbed and
Duke Yin
shrugged slightly
sneered.
before
I'm
walking
giving you
towards
face
Duke
by
Yin
asking you to
before
join
she even
forces
got
with
close.
me.
Heaven
Otherwise,
immortal Yu Ying
do you
bowed
think a
and
lowly
said,
servant like
I've
you
heard
is
a lot
worthy
about
of
joining
Duke Yin,
forces with
but
me,
never had the chance to
Those
follow
words
you.
were extremely
Now that
grating,
I've been recognized
and even
by
Lai
you,
Xian frowned
I'm Yu
slightly,
Ying and I'm willing to
Xie
serve you.
Qingqing's blood surged,
Good,
and she
good.
was enraged.
Duke Yin laughed out
When
loud.
Heaven immortal Yu
With
Ying
Heaven
saw
immortal
that the
Yu Ying
situation
being
was
the
bad,
first to stand
she
out,
hurried forward and
9 more
grabbed
people
Xie
stood
Qingqing
on
tightly,
tightly,
whispering
whispering,
one after
Duke,
another.
calm down.
In the blink
Don't
of
be
an eye,
rash.
there were
Why?
only 6
You want
people
to
left
fight me?
behind Xie
Duke Yin
Qingqing.
raised his brow slightly.
Foo-foo. There are indeed 6 people who don't know what's good for them. Duke Yin chuckled softly. You guys. It was only at this moment that Xie Qingqing turned around and looked at the 6 people beside her. She wanted to say something but hesitated. Duke, let's go. One of the level 9 heaven immortals among the 6 said. There's no chance for us to obtain the Spirit Dawn seal. That's right. Another person said. Duke, you've saved my life before. I'll definitely not abandon you. However, we'll only be humiliating ourselves if we stay behind. Xie Qingqing hesitated and struggled for a long time before her gaze turned resolute once more. He still remembered what Su Zimo reminded her before she left. There's still more than 20 days before the seal. If anything happens to me during this period of time, don't panic. Don't give up until the very last moment. At that time, Xie Qingqing did not understand what he meant. Now that she thought about it, Su Zimo seemed to have predicted that something would happen. There was a deeper meaning to those words as well. Furthermore, Su Zimo had reminded her twice that she must not give up until the very last moment. At that thought, Xie Qingqing said, Brothers, thank you for your loyalty and trust. Crush your teleportation talismans and leave this place. As for me, I'll just wait here since I still have more than 20 days left. Peak. Chapter 2509. Of the dozens of people that Xie Qingqing brought in, which one of them had not received his kindness? But now that he was in trouble, only the 6 heaven immortals before him were willing to stay by his side. Duke Yen and the others harbored ill intentions, and were eyeing him covetously, ready to strike at any moment. Xie Qingqing did not want to implicate the 6 heaven immortals, and put them in danger because of his persistence. He was a duke after all. Even if he stayed here, his life would not be in danger, and he would at most suffer some humiliation. However, the 6 heaven immortals might be in danger. Duke! The 6 heaven immortals called out softly. Let's go. Xie Qingqing pretended to be carefree and smiled. Wait for me at the palace after 20 days. Regardless of success or failure, we have to gather and get drunk. All right, the 6 heaven immortals agreed. If they insisted on staying, they would only be attacked by Duke Yen and the others. Furthermore, the 6 heaven immortals did not want to betray Xie Qingqing, and their only choice was to leave. Under Xie Qingqing's gaze, the 6 heaven immortals tore their teleportation talismans and left the battlefield of Shura. Duke Yen sneered. Xie Qingqing, what are you still doing here? Are you trying to embarrass yourself? Perhaps he wants to obtain the Spirit Dawn seal with his own strength. Heaven Immortal Yu Ying had just changed his allegiance, and immediately changed his attitude, trampling on Xie Qingqing to curry favor with Duke Yen. You guys don't have to care about whether I stay or leave. Xie Qingqing's tone was cold. Io. Duke Yen laughed. My dear brother, you're quite indignant, huh? Yu Ying, go teach him a lesson for me. This, Heaven Immortal Yu Ying hesitated for a moment. Why? You don't dare? Or do you miss your old master? Duke Yen turned and asked with narrowed eyes. No. Heaven Immortal Yu Ying reacted quickly and denied it. Although he had some resistance in his heart, he was also clear that this matter could be considered as a proof of his allegiance. That was the only way he could truly gain the trust and respect of Duke Yen. At that thought, Heaven Immortal Yu Ying made up his mind and walked towards Xie Qingqing. How dare you? Xie Qingqing glared at Heaven Immortal Yu Ying with a cold gaze. After all, he was the Duke of the Flaming Sun Celestial Kingdom. Now that he was furious, he was exuding the majesty of the royal family. Although Celestial Immortal Yu Ying's cultivation base was higher than Xie Qingqing's, she had once followed Xie Qingqing, and Xie Qingqing had even saved her life. Now that Xie Qingqing was glaring at him, he felt a little guilty and didn't move. Don't be afraid. Duke Yan's face was full of smiles as he instigated. Just don't beat him to death. If anything happens, I'll take responsibility. Thank you, Duke Yan. Upon hearing this, Celestial Immortal Yu Ying's heart calmed down. Xie Qingqing scolded. Ungrateful dog, I shouldn't have saved you back then. At the mention of that, Heavenly Immortal Yu Ying's face flushed red, and she felt extremely embarrassed. Resentment rose in her heart as she raised her hand to slap Xie Qingqing while scolding. Who needs your help? Mind your own business. Before Celestial Immortal Yu Ying's palm could land on Xie Qingqing's face, her wrist was grabbed by another thick and heavy hand, like an iron hoop. Celestial Immortal Moonshadow's arm was completely motionless. Instead, a terrifying heat wave was emitted from the other party's palm, as though it could burn her arm to ashes. Fellow Taoist Lai Yu. Turning around, Celestial Immortal Yu Ying could not help but be shocked when she saw that person. The person who stopped Celestial Immortal Yu Ying was Lai Xian, who was beside Duke Yen. Brother Lai, what's the meaning of this? Duke Yen frowned slightly. Lai Xian turned around and said in a deep voice, Xie Qingqing has the bloodline of the Flaming Sun Immortal King after all. If she's bullied by an outsider, it'll be an embarrassment to the royal family. Furthermore, he's alone and won't affect our seizing of the seal. There's no need to kill him. Duke Yen was somewhat displeased. However, Lai Xian was a reincarnated perfected immortal, and it wasn't easy for him to invite the latter to stand on his side. Duke Yen had to give Lai Xian some face as well. All right. Duke Yen waved his hand. I'll listen to Brother Lai and not lower myself to your level. Let's go. With that, Duke Yen led the group of cultivators away. Lai Xian released his grip, and Celestial Immortal Yu Ying hurriedly retracted his wrist with a pained expression. In that short period of time, his wrist was burned with a brand, and he could no longer feel his entire hand. Even though he suffered a huge loss, Celestial Immortal Yu Ying did not dare to complain at all. Enduring the pain, he fled the place dejectedly without even turning back. With his hands behind his back, Lai Xian turned and left. Thank you. When he arrived at the entrance of the courtyard, Xie Qingqing's voice sounded from behind him. Lai Xian paused and glanced sideways. Indeed, Su Zimo, whom you found, has already fallen into the lake. However, at that time, the 6 people in the top 10 of the heaven ranking were all present. To be precise, he fell into the blood-malevolent lake because he fought against the 6 of them alone. When Xie Qingqing heard that, she no longer had any doubts. However, she had not expected that the 6 heaven immortals in the top 10 of the heaven ranking would join forces to deal with Su Zimo. He's very strong. Lai Xian's tone seemed to contain a hint of admiration and pity. After a moment of silence, he continued, If I were to fight him alone, the outcome would be hard to predict. After saying that, Lai Xian left the place and disappeared in the blink of an eye. After everyone left, Xie Qingqing sat on the ground dejectedly. Now he was all alone. He had nothing and was helpless. Even if he could still hold on to the beliefs in his heart, what else could he do in such a situation? Was he still going to participate in the seal-seizing battle 20 days later? He was only a level 7 heaven immortal. How could he compete with the other dukes? A month passed in the blink of an eye. On the last day, the remaining 7 dukes in the battlefield of Shura arrived at the lake in the center of the ancient city, with their respective teams, waiting for the final moment to arrive. When the Permitha Bridge arrived, it also meant that the most critical and intense battle of the seal-seizing battle had officially begun. In the sky above the ancient city, the 6 perfected immortals of Divine Firmament Palace also perked up. The next battle would determine the rankings of many cultivators on the heaven-ranking mountain. Shen Hong said softly. There seems to be another team that hasn't arrived. Chapter 25:10. Look over there. Fairy Divine Crane's spirits were lifted as she pointed at the blood-fiend lake below, and exclaimed, What? The other 5 perfected immortals turned to look, and their expressions changed slightly. The blood-fiend lake in the center of the ancient city seemed to be attracted by a mysterious force, and it started to spin slowly, forming a huge whirlpool. The 6 perfected immortals focused and looked down. They could see that in the center of the whirlpool, there was a figure sitting at the bottom of the lake. It was Su Zimo. The 6 perfected immortals knew that Su Zimo was not dead, so they were not surprised. What truly shocked the 6 perfected immortals was that through their spirit consciousnesses, not only was Su Zimo unharmed after staying in the blood-malevolent lake for close to a month, his aura was even stronger than before. Seems like he's going to break through. Gosh, what kind of opportunity did he get at the bottom of the lake? In less than 30 days he has cultivated to this stage. Is he going to break through to level 7? This kid's breakthrough caused such a huge commotion that the entire Bloodfiend Lake was affected. The 6 perfected immortals were in disbelief. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have believed it. Fairy Divine Crane was the first to come to her senses and accept this reality. She smiled and said softly, This seal-seizing battle seems to be getting interesting again. You asked me who would take the Lingxia seal. Now I have a candidate. As soon as she said that, Su Zimo's aura skyrocketed from the bottom of the lake. He had broken through some kind of barrier. Level 7. In less than 30 days, Su Zimo had broken through to the next level. Even with the 6 perfected immortals' knowledge, they were shocked by this speed of cultivation. At this moment, the figure at the bottom of the lake suddenly raised his head, as if he could see through the blood mist, and look in the direction of the 6 perfected immortals. After a slight pause, the figure retracted his gaze, and continued to adjust his breathing, absorbing the surrounding heaven and earth yuan qi to stabilize his cultivation. The 6 perfected immortals looked at each other in shock. He looked at us just now. Shen Hong could not help but ask in disbelief. Could it be he found us? The other 5 could not believe it, and were equally confused. How was this possible? As true immortal experts, they were hiding in the depths of the blood mist in the battlefield of Shura. They were at the highest point in the sky, far beyond the detection range of a heaven immortal's divine sense. Su Zimo was only a tier 7 heavenly immortal. How could he sense their location? After a while, Fairy Divine Crane coughed softly and reminded,
Shen Hong. It's time to take out the heaven ranking and change his position. Ah yes. Shen Hong came to a sudden realization and hurriedly opened the heavenly ranking list. True origin condensed at the tip of her finger, but she did not move. She asked, "What is the ranking now?" 10th place is definitely not suitable. That's right. When he was a rank 6 heavenly immortal, he was already ranked 10th. Now that he's a rank 7 heavenly immortal, don't rank too high either. I suggest that we play it safe and see what he has up his sleeve. Ranked 7th? Number 7 is fine. Let's do that for now. The 6 true immortals discussed for a while and decided that Su Zimo would be ranked at the bottom of the heaven leaderboard, to the 7th place in the top 10 of the heaven leaderboard, pushing Yu Hai, who was originally ranked 7th, to the 8th place. The commotion from the Blood Fiend Lake attracted the attention of the 7 teams. However, their divine senses were far inferior to that of a true immortal. Naturally, they could not see the bottom of the lake and did not know what was happening inside. Just like that, under everyone's gaze, Xie Qingqing arrived at the edge of the Blood Fiend Lake and was only a step away from the Permitha Bridge. Kneel. Heavenly Immortal Yu Ying observed Duke Yan's expression. When she saw that he was displeased, she rushed forward immediately and raised her leg to kick him. Just as Xie Qingqing wanted to resist, countless powerful spirit consciousnesses descended and suppressed him, rendering him immobile. Thump! Xie Qingqing was sent sprawling on the ground by Heavenly Immortal Yu Ying's kick. The pressure of the powerful spirit consciousnesses had yet to dissipate, and he could not even stand up. Xie Qingqing's eyes were bloodshot as he looked at the golden bridge before him and the lone island at the end of it. With a resolute gaze, he crawled forward bit by bit. Xie Qingqing, Duke Yan gave you a chance, but you don't know what's good for you. How dare you try to snatch the seal? Heavenly Immortal Yu Ying took a step forward and stomped on Xie Qingqing's back, harumphing coldly. Let's see how you're going to step onto the Permitha Bridge under my feet. Yu Ying was once someone by Xie Qingqing's side, but now he was trampling on Xie Qingqing. Everyone gloated and jeered as they watched the show. You're courting death. Right then, a cold and sinister voice sounded from the Blood Fiend Lake. How dare you boast so shamelessly? How arrogant! Duke Yan could not help but stand out and point at Su Zimo, scolding. You're just a 7th level heavenly immortal, and you dare to guard the Nirvana Bridge alone? With an order from me, dozens of heaven immortals under my command will crush you until there's nothing left of you. Su Zimo swept his gaze and saw a few heaven immortals behind Duke Yan who were originally on Xie Qingqing's side. With a thought, he guessed what Xie Qingqing had encountered in the past. I don't need you to give the order. I'll cripple you first. Before Su Zimo could finish, he released his innate divine power, Six Fangs Divine Power. The flesh of Qinglian's true body had refined and absorbed countless white tiger malevolent qi. The malevolent qi outside no longer had any effect on him. 6 divine elephant tusks that were as white as jade grew from Su Zimo's back. They emitted a terrifying aura, and the power in his body surged. At the same time, Su Zimo's right eye burst forth with an incomparably blinding beam of light that tore through the air. It was his visual technique, Illumination Eye. Watch out! Lai Xian's expression was grim, and his pupils constricted as he reminded Duke Yan loudly. The Killing Eye technique arrived in the blink of an eye. Lai Xian did not have time to release any other methods, and hurriedly conjured his visual technique as well. Boom! Their visual techniques collided with a deafening bang, and sparks flew everywhere. Lai Xian's visual technique was similar to Illumination Eye, and was also incomparably bright, hovering in his eye sockets like 2 blazing suns. Unfortunately, no matter how strong his visual technique was, it could not match Illumination Eye. The predecessor of Illumination Eye was the visual technique of dragons, the Illumination Dragon Eye. If it was just the Illumination Dragon Eye, it might be evenly matched against Lai Xian's visual technique. However, Su Zimo's right eye contained a mysterious illumination stone. With the illumination stone as the foundation, he could unleash the power of Illumination Eye to its limits. After the 2 visual techniques collided, there was a slight pause. Immediately after, Illumination Eye broke through the obstruction of Lai Xian's visual technique and arrived behind him instantly, in front of Duke Yan. Initially, illumination eye was aimed at Duke Yan's glabella. However, there was a slight deviation because of Lai Xian's obstruction. Even so, the light beam from the illuminating eye still entered Duke Yan's chest and exploded with a loud bang. Release your essence spirit and escape. The moment the two visual techniques made contact, Lai Xian had a bad feeling and shouted. With Lai Xian blocking at the front, Duke Yan reacted, and his essence spirit flew out of his head hurriedly. The moment he did that, his body was shattered by the beam released by illumination eye. A raging fire burned, and even his essence spirit was about to be engulfed. Lai Xian hurriedly took out the teleportation talisman and pressed it on Duke Yan's essence spirit, shattering it instantly. Duke Yan's essence spirit was sent out of the battlefield in Shura. Chapter 25:12. On the battlefield in Shura. With Duke Yan's withdrawal, no matter how many people were left in his group, he no longer had a chance to obtain the Spirit Dawn seal. Lai Xian was enraged. It was not because Duke Yan had withdrawn from the fight for the seal, but because Su Zimo had crippled Duke Yan right in front of him. That was no different from slapping him in the face in public. All of a sudden, Lai Xian's expression changed starkly. Not good. Before he could retaliate against Su Zimo had already charged over. Although he did not turn back, Lai Xian could still sense a suffocating malevolent aura surging over. It was as though it was not a human that was charging over, but a savage ferocious beast that ate humans. Lai Xian had just saved Duke Yan, and was slightly distracted, allowing Su Zimo to seize the opportunity to close in. He did not have time to release any divine powers or weapons. At this distance, the only way to resolve the crisis and turn the tables was to release secret skills instantaneously. Lai Xian did not dare to release teleportation. Although teleportation could allow him to escape from his original spot, it was a supreme divine power, after all, that had to be released. During the process, it was easy to be interrupted. He was already at a disadvantage to begin with. If he was interrupted by Su Zimo, there was a high chance that his life would be in danger. In a flash, Lai Xian made a judgment and channeled his blood qi to its limits. His bloodline phenomenon appeared vaguely, as he released a sound domain secret skill. Roar! However, at the same time, Su Zimo's sound domain secret skill rang in his ears. The dragon roar that was filled with endless might burst forth once more, reverberating through the world and charging into the clouds. It could be said that Lai Xian's reaction was extremely fast, and he made the right choice. However, things were different now. More than 20 days ago, Su Zimo released the Dragon Roar secret skill, at the realm of a rank 6 heavenly immortal, without the support of Six Fang's divine power. But now that Su Zimo had broken through to become a rank 7 heavenly immortal, the power of the Dragon Roar secret skill had almost doubled. The two of them were extremely close. Behind Lai Xian, and the 60-odd heavenly immortals under Duke Yan were the first to bear the brunt and suffered the greatest impact. Exclamation point. Lai Xian spat out a large mouthful of blood. His head buzzed and his expression was sluggish. His ears hurt and blood seeped out. The blood qi within his body surged, and before his bloodline phenomenon was fully formed, it was nearly scattered by Su Zimo's dragon roar, and was on the brink of collapse. Lai Xian was ranked 4th on the heaven ranking, a reincarnated true immortal of the Flaming Sun Immortal Empire. His fleshly body and bloodline were extremely powerful, and he had almost no weaknesses. Even he couldn't endure it, let alone the 60-plus celestial immortals behind him. Puff, puff, puff. The heads of the heaven immortals in the first few rows exploded like watermelons. Their primordial spirits were destroyed. The stage 9 heavenly immortals behind him were also swaying, bleeding from their 7 orifices. Their eyes were glazed over as they died. Plop, plop. More than 60 celestial immortals fell to the ground in rows. Those who were further away didn't have any injuries on their bodies, but they looked dazed. Their sea of consciousness had been shattered, and their primordial spirits had dissipated. Duke Yan's army was completely wiped out. Those people died in the battlefield of Shura, before they could even release their teleportation talismans. As for Su Zimo, he released his dragon roar, and did not even look at those people. Like an anaconda, he coiled around Lai Xian's body and exerted strength. Boom! Lai Xian's 9 sons hovering bloodline phenomenon collapsed before he could release it. Crackle! The sound of bones cracking could be heard from within Lai Xian's body. His eyes bulged and were bloodshot. His face was purplish, and it was as though he was about to explode from being squeezed by Su Zimo. Brother Su, hold on. Right then, Xie Qingqing snapped out of her stupor and shouted hurriedly. Su Zimo's expression changed, and he did not continue exerting strength. Instead, he recovered and reached out, grabbing the top of Lai Xian's head and lifting him up, striding towards Xie Qingqing. Lai Xian was predicted to be number 4 on the heaven ranking. Now that he was grabbed by Su Zimo, his entire body went limp, and he could not resist at all. Su Zimo pressed his palm on the top of his head and sealed his essence spirit. As long as he made any strange movements, Su Zimo's palm would be able to kill him. The entire process happened way too quickly. It was only at this moment that the surrounding cultivators snapped out of their daze, and their expressions changed. The crowd was horrified and retreated instinctively, wanting to distance themselves from Su Zimo. Nobody expected Su Zimo to be so domineering as to take the initiative to attack Duke Yan and Lai Xian in front of everyone. What was even more unexpected was that Duke Yan, who was arrogant and domineering earlier on, was crippled instantly and fled the Shura. His team was completely annihilated. Even Lai Xian, who was predicted to be number 4 on the heaven ranking and was a reincarnated perfected immortal, was suppressed by Su Zimo and captured alive in melee combat. The entire process took merely a few breaths. Everyone knew that it was easy to defeat someone of the same cultivation realm. However, it was extremely difficult to capture someone alive unless one's strength was superior. Zhong Feiyu, Song Su and the other experts on the heaven ranking had different expressions. They did not stand by idly on purpose. It was just that none of them expected Lai Xian to be defeated so quickly. By the time they reacted, the battle was already over. Zhong Feiyu, Song Su, Heaven Immortal Luo Yang, Yu Hai and Xie Tianhuang exchanged glances. Although they did not say anything, they had a tacit understanding. Su Zimo had given them way too much pressure earlier on. If they were to fight again, the 5 of them would definitely have to join forces. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo brought Lai Xian before Xie Qingqing and asked, "Why? Brother Xie, are you planning to deal with him personally?" "No." Xie Qingqing looked at the dispirited Lai Xian and shook his head slightly, hesitating to speak with a troubled expression. After hesitating for a moment, he said, "I would like to ask Brother Su to spare him this once." "Oh." Su Zimo raised his eyebrows slightly. Xie Qingqing hurriedly explained, "Before this, Duke Yan brought people to humiliate me. He helped me before I—" Xie Qingqing was very clear about kindness and hatred. He owed Lai Xian a favor. In his opinion, Lai Xian's crime did not warrant death. "All right." Su Zimo nodded. Since Lai Xian had helped Xie Qingqing before, there was no harm in letting him go. Su Zimo was about to release Lai Xian when Xie Qingqing hurriedly waved his hand to stop him. Xie Qingqing looked at Lai Xian and said solemnly, "Brother Lai Xian, I can let you go, but you have to promise me that you will leave Shura immediately and not attack Brother Su again. You are not allowed to be enemies with Brother Su from now on." Although he wanted Su Zimo to let Lai Xian go, he did not want to give Su Zimo another strong enemy in Shura because of this action. Lai Xian clenched his teeth, his eyes burning with anger. He pursed his lips and did not say a word. Of course he did not want to die, but he did not want to surrender either. Also, he had just been defeated, and he was not willing to accept it at all. In his opinion, Su Zimo had suppressed him completely because he was distracted while saving Duke Yan, which led to a series of defeats later. He still had a lot of tricks and trump cards that he had not used yet. At this time, Su Zimo seemed to see through Lai Xian's thoughts and suddenly asked, "Lai Xian, are you not willing to accept it?" Lai Xian clenched his fists and still refused to speak. Ha 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 ha. At this time, Su Zimo looked up and laughed loudly. "Lai Xian, so what if I let you go? If I can suppress you once, I can suppress you a second time." It locked onto Song Su, who was in front of it,
and suddenly pounced toward him. Along with the tiger's roar, the 5 perfected immortals quickly released their own sound domain secret techniques to resist the white tiger sacred beast. However, the white tiger sacred beast appeared suddenly, and its aura was locked onto Song Su. It did not give him any chance to escape. Song Su still wanted to resist, and in the blink of an eye, he released a series of secret techniques. Unfortunately, none of them could stop the white tiger sacred beast from pouncing. The white tiger sacred beast opened its bloody mouth and swallowed Song Su. Blood spurted out, and the killing intent entered Song Su's body, destroying his vitality. This scene was extremely shocking. In the eyes of countless cultivators, a white tiger suddenly appeared in the west and held Song Su in its mouth. Song Su's body was covered in blood, and he was motionless. His eyes were wide open, and they were filled with horror. There was no sign of life in his body. Song Su was dead. The white tiger sacred beast held Song Su's body in its mouth and stood in the air, exuding a shocking killing intent. It was as if it was the god of slaughter between heaven and earth. Although Song Su was dead, he still took out the teleportation talisman from his storage bag and crushed it before he died. Unfortunately, it was all too late. Song Su's body was wrapped in a ray of light, and he left the battlefield in Shura. This was the 4th secret technique of the prison-suppressing cauldron, the white tiger sacred beast. In fact, although the power of the white tiger sacred beast was terrifying, it was not at the level where it could kill Song Su, who was predicted to be the 5th on the heaven list, in one move. Song Su was not that weak. However, because this was the battlefield in Shura, the killing intent was everywhere. Su Zimo's position was at the edge of the blood lake. Therefore, when the white tiger sacred beast was formed, it absorbed a large amount of the killing intent in the lake, and it was almost materialized. One must know that even a true immortal would not be able to withstand such killing intent, and would have to avoid it. The reason why Su Zimo was able to survive in the blood-malevolent lake was because he relied on the Green Lotus true body and cultivated the white tiger corpse-devouring secret skill. Although Song Su's methods were strong, and he had many trump cards, he could not withstand the impact of the white tiger sacred beast. Moreover, the white tiger sacred beast was released in the form of a killing technique. After this secret technique was released, the scene instantly fell into a deathly silence. Not a single sound could be heard. All the cultivators who wanted to attack Su Zimo earlier on were frozen on the spot, still unable to recover from the shock of what had just happened. Xie Qingqing did not take a few steps. She was still worried, and subconsciously turned back to look. At this moment, she saw a white tiger coming from the west and killing Song Su instantly. Only now did Xie Qingqing truly feel at ease. She faintly realized that he might really be the final victor. In the square of the Flaming Sun Palace, many of the cultivators gathered here did not know what happened in the Shura battlefield. They were only guessing based on the real-time prediction of the Heaven leaderboard. I didn't expect Duke Yan to be almost crippled even with Lai Xian's protection. It must be Zhong Feiyu. Only he has the ability to do so. Just as the crowd was discussing, a ray of light flashed in the square again. Following that, a bloody corpse fell from the sky and lay motionless on the ground. There was no sign of life in the body. It was already dead. Which unlucky guy got killed with the teleportation jade talisman? Haha, with this level of skill, you still want to participate in the Shura battlefield? Why don't you join us in the fun outside? The crowd chuckled. Someone frowned and said, the corpse seems to have a token of the executioner's guard hanging on his waist. Executioner's guard? Someone stepped forward and kicked the corpse, turning it over. Seeing the corpse's face, the person was shocked and took a few steps back. Hiss! The other cultivators also sucked in a breath of cold air. The 5th on the Heaven leaderboard, the executioner's guard Song Su. Song Su is dead. What happened in the Shura battlefield? Chapter 25:14. In the sky above the ancient city, the 6 perfected immortals of the Divine Firmament Palace were stunned. Divine Crane Fairy had already thought highly of Su Zimo, and predicted that this battle would be very intense. However, she did not expect that Song Su would be killed by Su Zimo in one move,
before he could even reach them. Song Su was not a small fry. He was the first executioner of the Divine Firmament Palace, and was predicted to be 5th on the Heaven leaderboard. It might be possible to defeat an expert of this level, if they were of the same level. However, it would be extremely difficult to kill him. Moreover, it was an instant kill. Back then, in the battle between Qin Gu and Zhong Feiyu, the second on the Heaven leaderboard, Qin Gu was slightly better, but he could not kill Zhong Feiyu. Song Su had a teleportation talisman that could allow him to leave the battlefield in Shura at any time, but he did not have the time to use it. Shenhong calmed herself down and analyzed in a low voice. This Su Zimo is too smart. The reason why his secret technique was so terrifying was because he used the power of the Blood Lake. Divine Cloud said. After he appeared, he took control of the situation. Not only did he capture Lai Xuani, but he also took advantage of the environment to kill Song Su. Song Su's death is a wake-up call for everyone here, Divine Cloud said. If anyone sees that the situation is not good, they will immediately crush their teleportation talismans and escape. In fact, the situation below was just as the 6 perfected immortals had expected. The cultivators who were ready to use their Dharma treasures all took out their teleportation talismans from their storage bags and held them in their palms, looking alert. There was a short pause on the battlefield because of Song Su's death. Everyone, including Zhong Feiyu Yuhai, Luo Yang Tianxian, and Xie Tianhuang, froze. They were shocked and shocked. Confusion flashed through the minds of the 4 people subconsciously. If that fiendish white tiger had pounced on them, who would have been able to withstand it? No one could give an answer. Even Zhong Feiyu could not guarantee that he could escape unscathed. Thinking of this, the 4 of them felt a lingering fear. Song Su had died for the 4 of them. Of course, with their experience, they could quickly tell that Su Zimo's secret skill was based on the blood qi in the Shura battlefield. Moreover, this kind of unparalleled killing secret technique could not be used continuously. Therefore, the 4 of them did not retreat. But just as the 4 of them were stunned, Su Zimo attacked again. Among the 4, Zhong Feiyu was the strongest. If he couldn't defeat Zhong Feiyu in a short period of time, he would be surrounded by the 4 of them. Therefore, Su Zimo used the True Dragon's 9 flashes and instantly appeared in front of Luo Yang Tianxian. He had no intention of holding back at all. He raised his hand and unleashed a peerless technique, Fleeting Brilliance. Call the wind and summon the rain. Celestial Immortal Luo Yang also released a peerless divine ability, but he could still feel a strong sense of danger. Not good. Celestial Immortal Luo Yang was aghast. He had heard of how terrifying Su Zimo's peerless divine ability was, but he had never experienced it before. He could never understand the powerlessness of time. Even Lai Xian had to use many divine abilities and secret skills, including the 9 suns in the sky, to escape unscathed. In a flash, Celestial Immortal Luo Yang's eyes flashed with decisiveness. He crushed the teleportation talisman in his hand and chose to escape from the Shura battlefield. It was not that he was weak, but that he had no other choice. With his means, he could release many divine abilities and secret skills, including the bloodline anomaly. He could definitely resolve the danger of Fleeting Brilliance. However, Su Zimo was already close to him. He chose to stay on the battlefield and resolve Fleeting Brilliance, which meant that he would have to face Su Zimo's close combat attacks. He had seen Su Zimo's close combat power. If even Song Su and Lai Xian could not withstand it, he would not stand a chance. Moreover, after resolving Fleeting Brilliance, he would be at his weakest. If Su Zimo closed in on him, he might not even have the chance to tear the teleportation talisman. There was a flash of light. Celestial Immortal Luo Yang disappeared from the Shura battlefield and returned to the square of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom. Although he had escaped, Fleeting Brilliance's divine abilities and power were still there. He could clearly feel his lifespan depleting at a terrifying speed. Whoosh! Celestial Immortal Luo Yang's eyes widened as he activated his bloodline to the extreme. His body rumbled and released the bloodline anomaly. At the same time, he released many divine abilities and secret skills, and finally expelled the power of time from his body. Even so, his lifespan had been completely reduced by 100,000 years.
100,000 years of lifespan in an instant. A celestial immortal's lifespan was 300,000 years. He was originally 190,000 years old and was at his peak. His vitality was strong, and his lungs were filled with energy. Now his lifespan had been reduced by 100,000 years. He was 290,000 years old, and his hair was white and his face was full of wrinkles. His vitality was so weak that even his bloodline anomaly could not support it. Ah! Celestial immortal Luoyang grabbed his white hair. His eyes were wide open, and his face was contorted as he let out a hysterical cry. Su Zimo, you're too ruthless. Celestial immortal Luoyang grit his teeth and spat out a few words, trembling in anger. Su Zimo's attack earlier on was way too domineering and did not leave him any way out at all. If he had stayed on the battlefield in Shura and released his divine abilities, secret skills and bloodline anomaly to resist fleeting brilliance, he would have been killed by Su Zimo in melee combat. Even if he chose to leave the battlefield decisively, he would not be able to escape the severe injuries of fleeting brilliance. On the battlefield in Shura, many cultivators were dumbfounded when they saw celestial immortal Luoyang choose to escape after Su Zimo released a supreme divine ability. In fact, they even found it ridiculous. No matter how strong Su Zimo was, there was no need for him to be that scared, right? Su Zimo was the only one who raised his brow slightly and nodded. As expected of the number 8 on the heaven ranking, you do have some skills. Thankfully, celestial immortal Luoyang escaped quickly. If he was slower, celestial immortal Luoyang would definitely be dead by the time he released his melee combat technique. Su Zimo was sincerely praising celestial immortal Luoyang. However, his words sounded like great mockery to the cultivators present. Chapter 25:15. It had to be said that the Duke of Heavenly Phoenix's judgment of the situation was extremely accurate. The opportunity before his eyes was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that was fleeting. Although he did not have any experts who were predicted to be in the top 10 of the heaven roll, he had used Zhong Feiyu and the others to create an almost perfect opportunity for himself. Even the 6 perfected immortals of Divine Firmament Palace, who were watching the battle from the sky, could not help but praise him for his cleverness. The Duke of Heavenly Phoenix's move could allow him to avoid a direct battle and maximize his advantage. Unfortunately, his opponent this time was Su Zimo. As soon as he made a move, Su Zimo sensed his intention. As he rushed toward Yuhai, a jade book flew out from between his eyebrows. The jade book emitted a green glow. In the blink of an eye, it formed an avatar that looked exactly like him and rushed toward the Duke of Heavenly Phoenix. The primeval body from the pure jade book. Su Zimo's Qinglian real body was fighting against Yuhai and Zhong Feiyu. The primeval body was blocking the Duke of Heavenly Phoenix. Just as the Duke of Heavenly Phoenix reached the Permitha Bridge, the primeval body arrived first. He naturally recognized that this was an avatar formed by Su Zimo, using the pure jade book. Su Zimo's purpose was to hold him back. The Duke of Heavenly Phoenix sneered. He held the red Heavenly Phoenix saber with both hands and slashed it toward Su Zimo's primeval body. You want to stop me with just an avatar? You must be dreaming. The Duke of Heavenly Phoenix shouted. His chi and blood surged, emitting waves of color. He pushed his strength to the limit. In fact, the Duke of Heavenly Phoenix was right. The primeval body was formed by the pure jade book. Although it was powerful, it did not have a real primordial spirit. It could defeat ordinary cultivators of the same level, but it stood no chance against a top expert like the Duke of Heavenly Phoenix. Even if it transformed into the form of the forbidden dragon Phoenix, it would be useless. Suddenly, just as the Heavenly Phoenix saber was about to strike, the primeval body in front of him suddenly swayed slightly. The Duke of Heavenly Phoenix's vision blurred for a moment. Something seemed to have happened in front of his eyes, but everything seemed normal. The doppelganger of Su Zimo in front of him still had black hair and a green robe with delicate features. On the other side, Yuhai and Zhong Feiyu teamed up and unleashed the most powerful attack they had ever unleashed. They didn't hold back at all, and even unleashed their bloodline anomalies. Like a storm, they bombarded Su Zimo. Under such an attack, Su Zimo's figure seemed so frail, like a small boat in a stormy sea. Bang! Su Zimo's body exploded. He died just like that. Zhong Feiyu and Yu Hai didn't believe it at all. What's more, Su Zimo's body exploded, but no blood flowed out. This is a clone. Zhong Feiyu immediately thought of something. He turned around abruptly and looked in the direction of the Heavenly Phoenix Commandery Prince. Be careful, he shouted. Upon hearing Zhong Feiyu's warning, a mocking look flashed through the eyes of the primeval body in front of the Duke of Heavenly Phoenix, and his lips curled. When he saw that change in expression, the Duke of Heavenly Phoenix's pupils constricted violently, and he suddenly felt a bone-chilling chill. The Su Zimo before him was not a clone, but his real body. Su Zimo's eyes shone brightly. Suddenly, he reached out and grabbed the Heavenly Phoenix saber that was slashing down. He took a step forward, clenched his fist into a seal and smashed down. The Duke of Heavenly Phoenix hurriedly raised his arm. Bang! The seal smashed down as though it was leather. Immediately after, the sound of bones cracking could be heard. The Duke of Heavenly Phoenix felt a sharp pain in his arm. It was broken by Su Zimo's punch. Su Zimo took another step forward and slammed down with another palm strike. The Duke of Heavenly Phoenix retreated and raised his head to dodge. Snap! The palm strike landed on his chest. His heart protection mirror shattered. His chest caved in deeply as well, revealing a huge crater with the imprint of a palm. Even the armor on his body could not withstand Su Zimo's strength. The Duke of Heavenly Phoenix's Heavenly Phoenix bloodline was suppressed by the white tiger blood malevolence and could not release his bloodline phenomenon. In close combat, Su Zimo crushed him effortlessly with a crushing momentum. Left with no choice, the severely injured Duke of Heavenly Phoenix could only give up on the Heavenly Phoenix saber and the spiritual dawn seal. Filled with indignation and resentment, he tore apart the teleportation talisman and fled the battlefield in the Shura. He truly did not dare to hesitate at all. The scene of Song Si's death earlier on was too deep. Duke Yan's physical body was also destroyed, and it was unknown whether heavenly immortal Luo Yang was still alive. The person before him looked like a gentle and refined scholar. However, when he fought, he was decisive and had no scruples. Who knew if he would kill him when he was enraged? Su Zimo stood at the end of the Nirvana bridge and casually threw away the Heavenly Phoenix saber. With a thought, the Jade Purity Jade Scroll returned to his sea of consciousness. I've said that no one can pass with me guarding here. Su Zimo's tone was indifferent. Zhong Feiyu and Yu Hai's expressions were extremely ugly. The 5 experts who were predicted to be in the top 10 of the Heaven leaderboard had joined forces. In the blink of an eye, only the 2 of them were left. Moreover, in front of everyone, they and the Duke of Heavenly Phoenix were toyed with by Su Zimo. Their joint forces were completely destroyed. High up in the sky, Fairy Shunkrane clapped her hands and praised. Using the primeval body with form displacement, not only did he avoid the attacks of Zhong Feiyu and Yu Hai, but he also took the opportunity to severely injure Xie Tianhuang. Impressive. This move is indeed brilliant. Shen Zhe shook his head slightly and said, this guy has too much control over the situation. No one can escape from his calculations. After all, he's from the Qianquan Academy. I heard that during the Celestial Sex selection, this guy was hunted down by the Dajin Celestial Nation. He won first place in the selection and had the chance to join any of the 4 major celestial sects. However, the other 3 celestial sects were wary of him and did not accept him. Instead, the Qianquan Academy picked up a treasure. On the battlefield, Lai Xian, who had been recuperating at the side, had already recovered from his injuries. He stood up full of fighting spirit. He had seen what had happened just now. Seeing that the situation was not good, Princess Yuan could not help but urge, Brother Zhong, hurry up and chase this guy away. Xie Qingqing is about to reach the island. Su Zimo was blocking the way. Even Xie Tianhuang could not get past him. How could they, the dukes, dare to act rashly? Zhong Feiyu looked at Lai Xian and said, Brother Lai, my flying fish sword is greatly suppressed here. I can't use my peak combat power. Zhong Feiyu did not say it directly, but Lai Xian understood what he meant. Zhong Feiyu was inviting him to come forward, so that the 3 of them could work together to deal with Su Zimo. Lai Xian shook his head slightly and said, I will naturally compete with Su Zimo, but I will not work with the two of you. Su Zimo had just let him go. Even if he was unwilling to be suppressed and captured alive, he was too embarrassed to work with others. This kind of behavior was no different from a despicable person. He had to rely on his own strength to regain his face. Haha. Hearing Lai Xian's words, Su Zimo laughed and nodded with satisfaction. Lai Xian, you're not bad. When I'm free, I'll suppress you and let you go again. F***ck. Hearing this, Lai Xian was so angry that he felt dizzy. His body shook slightly, and the blood that had just calmed down started to boil again. The newly healed wounds almost burst open. Chapter 25:16. In the square of the Flaming Sun Palace, many cultivators looked at Luoyang Celestial, who had just come out and was already in his twilight years. They were shocked and dumbfounded. I didn't expect Luoyang Celestial, who is predicted to be 8th on the heaven list, to be in such a miserable state. Compared to Song So, he's lucky. After all, he's still alive. Look at him. He's already in his twilight years. It's impossible for him to be on the heaven list, let alone be ranked 8th. After a short moment of silence, the crowd began to discuss. Some people began to point at him and whisper. Luoyang Celestial's old face was gloomy. The words around him were like sharp knives that stabbed into his heart. His life was ruined just like that. Ruined by a person who ascended from the lower world. What was more ironic was that this person was so weak a few thousand years ago. He didn't even look at this person in the eye. At this moment, another ray of light flashed in the sky above the square. Then a figure appeared coughing up blood. He staggered and fell to the ground. He clutched his sunken chest and his face was pale. The Duke of Heavenly Phoenix. A cry of surprise came from the crowd. The Duke of Heavenly Phoenix was a popular candidate for the seal this time. Although the Duke of Heavenly Phoenix didn't have any powerful helpers, he was predicted to be in the top 10 of the heaven list. If he could really get to the island, he would have the biggest advantage against the other dukes. No one expected that the Duke of Heavenly Phoenix would be the first to be eliminated among the remaining dukes. Even Xie Ling frowned. He was surprised. Isn't this battle too tragic? Indeed. This is just the beginning. 3 of the top 10 dukes on the heaven list have already been eliminated. One is dead, one is at the end of his life, and one is severely injured. It must be Zhong Feiyu. Other than him, no one else has such powerful combat strength. It should be him. Although Brother Lai Xian has such combat strength, he wouldn't be so ruthless against the Duke of Heavenly Phoenix. The crowd was discussing. Xie Ling stepped forward and took out a few spiritual pills. He gave them to the Duke of Heavenly Phoenix and asked with a frown, "What's the situation inside? Did Zhong Feiyu do it?" "No." The Duke of Heavenly Phoenix panted slightly. His face was pale as he replied unhappily, "Not Zhong Feiyu." Xie Ling was a little confused. After pondering for a while, an idea flashed through his mind. He suddenly recalled that there seemed to be a person on the prediction heaven list who was proficient in an exceptional ability that allowed time to pass. Could it be? Xie Ling's expression changed slightly, revealing a look of disbelief. Shira battlefield in front of the Blood Lake. The commandery prince of Mingjiang was furious after losing Song Se. He could no longer hold back and said in a deep voice, "In my opinion, we should join forces and suppress this person first." "Exactly," Princess Yuyan said. "With this person blocking the bridgehead, none of us can go over. We can only watch Xie Qingqing take away the Lingxia seal." "All right." Duke Yu also stepped forward and agreed. "Let's join forces and suppress this person first." The Duke of Starflame quickly said, "That's right. It doesn't matter who gets the Spirit Dawn seal. We can't let that be *TCH Xie Qingqing get it, right?" Su Zimo looked at the hundreds of elite heaven immortals opposite him and sneered. "A bunch of useless people. Even if you join forces, you are nothing to me." This sentence was like a slap to the faces of the crowd. Almost all of the heaven immortals present were stage 9 heaven immortals who could reach the ancient city. There were also some elites on the prediction heaven list, including Zhong Feiyu and Yu Hai. And now, Su Zimo's words were equivalent to scolding everyone. Arrogant bastard. He's too arrogant. Everyone, let's attack together and teach him an unforgettable lesson. Many of the cultivators were agitated. Without waiting for the orders of the commandery princes, they had already attacked one after another, exploding with divine powers and secret techniques. These divine powers and secret techniques were like countless torrential rivers, surging in one direction and converging into a stormy sea. Streaks of heaven-grade Dharma treasures turned into countless divine lights in midair, intertwining into an airtight net and enveloping Su Zimo. 3 heads and 6 arms. Facing the attacks of hundreds of cultivators, Su Zimo did not retreat at all. He guarded the Paramitha bridge alone and unleashed his ultimate divine powers. 2 more heads and 4 more arms grew from his body. One of his hands held the Tri-Jade Rui scepter, the other held the Tai Horsetail whisk, and the last held the 7-tailed Phoenix feather fan. The 3 hands that were free-formed divine powers and Dharma seals. He stood on the spot and spun rapidly. In midair, the Tri-Jade Rui scepter turned into a stream of light and collided with the Dharma treasures that were intertwined, creating a huge hole in the net. These Dharma treasures collided with the Tri-Jade Rui scepter and were instantly swept away. In the blink of an eye, the entire net was shattered by the Tri-Jade Rui scepter. Even if some heaven-grade Dharma treasures fell, they were casually swatted away by Qinglian's real body. Su Zimo conjured the spirit turtle shield and released the one heavenly true water at the same time. It enveloped the spirit turtle shield, increasing the defensive power of the innate divine powers, and allowing it to defend against the impact of the many divine powers and secret skills. At the same time, Su Zimo channeled a secret skill and released the mystic spirit Big Dipper diagram, causing his strength to rise once more. A gigantic star domain appeared above his head and billions of stars shone with endless starlight that surged into his body. Even with hundreds of top-tier heaven immortals attacking at the same time, they could not do anything to Su Zimo. In fact, they could not even make him take a single step back. I'll let you guys witness my capabilities as well. After blocking the first wave of attacks, Su Zimo's eyes shone brightly, and he clenched his sword fingers. A shocking killing intent burst forth from his body and surged into the clouds, shocking the 9 underworlds. The heavenly slaying and earthly slaying were released at the same time. The next moment, the earth quaked and the skies collapsed. Billions of heaven-slaying sword chi exploded in the crowd opposite him. In the sky, the stars were in a mess. Countless sword chi condensed into a sword chi divine dragon and swooped down. Everywhere it passed, blood was stained and broken limbs flew everywhere. The ground under the feet of the Duke of Star Flame suddenly cracked open, and a sword chi soaring serpent emerged. Chapter 25:17. The fusion of the 4 flames had already reached a terrifyingly high temperature. Now, another flame had fused into the giant fireball, causing the fireball to undergo a qualitative change, and its power to increase by several times. Run! Lai Xian's eyes widened as he suddenly roared. The fusion of the 4 flames was not much of a threat to him. But now, the fusion of the 5 flames was something even he had to use all his strength to block. If he was already in such a state, the fate of the others could be imagined. After all, Lai Xian was a reincarnated true immortal of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom. He naturally did not want the many dukes present to die here. For example, Duke Feng, Duke Yu, and the others had some understanding of the Tao of Fire, and could feel the terrifying power of Su Zimo's mystic technique. Now that they heard Lai Xian's warning, they did not hesitate to crush their teleportation talismans. It was a small matter if they could not snatch the Lingxia seal. But if their cultivation was crippled or they died because of it, it would be too late for regrets. Brother Zhong, Princess Yu Yan was still hesitant as she subconsciously transmitted her voice. Run! Zhong Feiyu did not waste time, and only said one word. His judgment was the same as Lai Xian's. Among the cultivators present, only He Yu Hai and Lai Xian could block this mystic technique. The rest would not be spared. Some cultivators saw that the situation was bad, and did not dare to hesitate after hearing Lai Xian's warning. They quickly retreated from the Shura battlefield. However, some cultivators still had a trace of hope. When Su Zimo's Pentati Dao fire exploded in the crowd, and the flames spread in all directions, it was already too late for these people to escape. Some cultivators were at the center of the Pentati Dao fire, and were instantly vaporized. Their bodies and souls were destroyed, and not even a trace of ash was left. Boom! 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 Zhong Feiyu, Lai Xian, and Yu Hai summoned their bloodline phenomenons at the same time to resist the Pentati Dao fire. Zhong Feiyu's bloodline phenomenons actually manifested a tall human figure that stood tall and looked down on everyone. It was in the sea of fire and protected him. Around Yu Hai's body, a deep blue ocean appeared, rolling up raging waves to resist the surrounding flames. Lai Xian stood in the sea of flames, 9 suns hanging in the sky behind him. However, at this moment his eyes were closed. His entire body was bathed in the Pentati Dao fire. The 9 blazing suns became even hotter, as if they were sensing something. Zhong Feiyu and Yu Hai looked at each other and activated their bloodline anomalies. Stepping on flames, they charged toward Su Zimo in a triangular formation. Yu Hai lightly shouted, "Su Zimo, if you keep using this secret technique, let's see how long you can last." In his view, Su Zimo was a Tier 7 heavenly immortal after all. Releasing heavenly slaughter and earthly slaughter, including this kind of fire-grade secret art, was a great burden on his primordial spirit. What he didn't know was that Su Zimo's nascent spirit had already reached the level of a Tier 9 heavenly immortal when he was a Tier 6 heavenly immortal. Now, Su Zimo was a Stage 7 heavenly immortal, and his primordial spirit had surpassed that of a Stage 9 heavenly immortal. With the support of the 6 Tusks' divine power, his primordial spirit was infinitely close to that of a true first-realm cultivator. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to sense the 6 true immortals of Divine Firmament Palace in the sky above the ancient city. "Su Zimo, you will die today." Zhong Feiyu had already put away his previous frivolous attitude. He now saw Su Zimo as the most powerful opponent in his life. Before this, he wanted to kill Su Zimo only to please Zither Immortal Mengyao and get the Jade Purity Jade Scroll. Furthermore, the power of the 2 dermic seals of the Buddhist monasteries was extremely terrifying to begin with. Boom! Another deafening sound echoed. A majestic mountain peak crushed down on Lai Xian's body heavily. The gigantic blazing sun behind him shook violently, as though it could not withstand the burden. Its brilliance flickered, and it could collapse at any moment. At that moment, Lai Xian was carrying the great Mount Meru on his back, and the great diamond mountain in front of him. Unable to advance, he was under immense pressure and his bones crackled. "Ah!" Lai Xian roared and bit the tip of his tongue gently, spitting out a mouthful of essence blood. He released a secret skill, and his strength rose once more as he tossed the great Mount Meru out. However, at that moment, it was as though a gigantic anaconda had slithered over beneath his feet and coiled around his body instantly. At that distance, Su Zimo would not give him any chance at all. Lai Xian had just let go of the great Mount Meru when he was restrained by Su Zimo once more. His great sun phenomenon was already on the verge of collapse under the consecutive suppression of the great Vajra Chakra seal and great Mount Meru seal. Now that Su Zimo was entangling him in close proximity, it broke down completely. Almost in the same situation, Lai Xian was once again restrained by Su Zimo's python. His eyes bulged, filled with blood vessels, and he could not move at all. He could only hear the sounds of bones rubbing against each other coming from his body. As long as Su Zimo exerted strength, Lai Xian's body would explode. Su Zimo's palm hovered above Lai Xian's head the entire time, and he did not even have the chance to release his essence spirit. Lai Xian was way too aggrieved. Previously, he was distracted to save Duke Yan, and was taken advantage of by Su Zimo. That was understandable. But now the two of them were fighting openly. In less than 3 moves he was suppressed by Su Zimo once more. The most frustrating thing was that it was the exact same move twice. Lai Xian felt his vision darken, and his consciousness fade, as he gradually could not hold on. All of a sudden, His body lightened, and the suffocating and omnipresent pressure from earlier on vanished instantly. Lai Xian knelt on the ground and panted heavily. I've said that I'll let you off once more after I suppress you. Su Zimo's voice sounded not far ahead. Lai Xian did not raise his head. He no longer knew how he was going to face Su Zimo from now on. More importantly, a sense of helplessness rose in his heart. He had cultivated the Blazing Sun Great Solar Sutra to its peak and condensed the bloodline phenomenon of 9 suns as one. However, he was still no match for Su Zimo, who had just gone through a huge battle and was suppressed in 3 moves. He felt that he might never be able to surpass this person in the future. Raising his head, Lai Xian looked at Su Zimo, who was not far away with a conflicted expression. This cultivator, who looked like a weak scholar, gave him the feeling that he was an unshakable great Titan mountain, an unstoppable great Meru mountain. He was unable to surpass the immense pressure. Even if he was a reincarnated perfected immortal with 2 lifetimes, he would not be able to surpass this person. Unlike how he predicted the outcome of the other people in the top 10 of the heaven ranking, Su Zimo did not kill Lai Xian. Firstly, it was because of Xie Qingqing's request. Secondly, he could tell that Lai Xian was an upright person. Thirdly, Su Zimo had another thought. If not for Xie Qingqing's plea, Lai Xian would have been killed long ago. In a sense, Xie Qingqing was Lai Xian's lifesaver. Now that Xie Qingqing had successfully obtained the Spirit Dawn seal and was in charge of a territory, she lacked a top expert by her side, and Lai Xian was a good candidate. With Lai Xian's talent and experience, he would definitely become a perfected immortal in the future. With his help, Xie Qingqing would definitely be able to gain a firm foothold in the royal family of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom. It had been midnight for the past few days. He wondered if he could make it into the top 10 of the monthly votes. Now he was in the top 20. End of chapter. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.